Welcome to another deadline stream, and yes, here we go with the webcam. The first time we've got the webcam and this new laptop with this stream. Thank you very much to everyone who's joined in. I know it's very early on. I normally do these kind of streams, I'd say, on a Friday around 7 p.m, but here we are. And if you have any questions, then just feel free to let me know, and I'll try to answer everything I can to the best of my ability. And of course, if any new updates come along, then I encourage you all to kind of just put it in the live chat, because honestly, I probably don't even have time to even check Twitter right now, because I'm going to try and get through all your questions. I've made a few changes to my wildcard draft, and honestly, maybe it's not ideal. Some players like Saka, I'm not really too fond of, to be honest, and I've talked about in my previous videos, but he is in here at the moment. It looks like Heung-min Son does have COVID, same with Bryan Gil from Spurs, so it is a bit of a difficult situation, and it does present an opportunity to go big at the back, cover Trent, and have 2C defenders as well as Azpilicueta, who also came in because Rudiger is injured and out of Game Week 8. So a lot has happened, obviously, in the last few days. It is an international break after all. Thank you very much to everyone who has joined in, like I said. Really appreciate it. I'm going to go through all your questions now. And I'm going to try and get through the ones that I missed earlier. Will Jota start? Honestly, I think that Firmino will start instead, but I wouldn't say that you should rule it out. Jota has been training in the last few days. Does that mean he's definitely going to start? That's a different question entirely, but I think he will. Morning, Dylan. Thank you, Chris El Famoso. Really appreciate it, mate. Always here. I have Rafinha, Douglas Luiz and Rudiger on the bench. Should I take a -4 hit to transfer out Alonso and Sarr for Trent and Mbomo? I think it is. I can see your kind of concerns there, because Douglas Luiz and Rudiger could both miss out. Maybe Luiz will be on the bench. He only featured 20 minutes for Brazil. Should I take a -4 hit? Oof. The thing is, taking Alonso out, I know obviously Trent is a better option long term, but he could start against Brentford, and if he does, he might actually do really well for you. And Sarr could also do well. So honestly, I probably wouldn't take that hit. Hi Dylan, my team is Ramsdale, Duffy, Cancelo, Laporte, Matip, Salah, Son, Foden, Antonio, Lukaku, Hwang. What do you think? I think it's a good team, to be honest. Laporte, I saw actually a City lineup, a predicted lineup from City Extra, and it didn't actually have Laporte in it. Same with Cancelo, but I don't know. I don't really trust that lineup too much, and a lot of City fans don't. I think that's a good team. Long term, Matip isn't someone I'm too fond of, but still, I think he's pretty good for this week, and the rest looks fine, to be honest. I really like the midfield, but honestly, the kind of main problem there would be Son if he is out with COVID. Obviously, it's not officially confirmed yet, but it does look like he is the one. A reliable source did say, I think it was Paul O'Keefe. Is Foden worth a hit? It depends who you get out, but I think he could be worth a hit, especially over the next 3 game weeks. Has Son got COVID? I believe he does, but of course, once again, we don't know that for sure, and it could be a case of, false information there. It could be 2 other players instead. Oh, Son has Cocoa Pops. Oh my God. Let's see. So, let's go. So, thank you to Flying Dutchman for joining in. Arnold's starting. I think he will, to be honest. He should be. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. My team is goalkeeper Foster, Ramsdale, Azpilicueta, Rudiger, Cancelo, Livramento, White, Salah, Rafinha, Grealish, Douglas Luiz, Saka, Jimenez, Lukaku and Antonio. 0.2 million in the bank. Who should I start? Good questions. Yeah, Ramsdale for sure. I'd start Azpilicueta, Cancelo, and probably, I'd start Ben White. Double Arsenal defence against Palace is a bit... I'm not really too confident of a clean sheet for the Gunners, but still, I'd probably go for that over Livramento. Salah, I'd start Rafinha just in case, but I don't think he's going to start. And the worst case scenario is he comes off the bench and gives you a 1-pointer. Grealish definitely I'd start. Douglas Luiz will probably not start as well for Aston Villa, so he's good on your bench. And definitely start Bukayo Saka, and then up front, start all of them. That's what I would do. How about KDB as a captaincy option? Honestly, look, he's someone I didn't talk about too much, but he is a fantastic option. He always is. Kevin De Bruyne is one of the best players in the Premier League, and I would start it. Like, if I had him, I would be very tempted to actually captain him. The reason why I haven't gone for him in my team or really considered him is because I like other options better, like Vardy, Son, Salah, of course, and others, even going big at the back. But KDB is a great option, and him and Mahrez would definitely be my 2 picks from City attack. At least for this game week. Will Mahrez start? I think so, with Gabriel Jesus being with Brazil. I think it vacates that right winger spot. What happened to Son? Apparently he has COVID. 2 players for Spurs were diagnosed. That was confirmed, but it wasn't actually disclosed which players they were, and they never really tend to disclose that sort of information. I think this is the best time for a stream with all the news and updates. Yeah, that's something I considered. I wasn't able to stream yesterday, but I kind of took it in a positive way because today there's been updates like with Heung-min Son, for example, and I wouldn't have been able to cover that if I had done it yesterday. So it's a good point, and I'll take into consideration. It might be a case of I might do a stream on a Thursday or Friday night, and I also do one on Saturday, but there's also the reaction stream as well, which I like to do, and that might not have to be on a Saturday, could be after, you know, all the games on a Sunday or Monday. Let me know what you guys think, of course. Nice to see you. Start Saar versus Liverpool, Traore versus Villa. Thank you very much, Gold Piece. Really appreciate it. And I would probably start, that's a tough one. Maybe I'd start Traore in this case, but you won't find many, you know, cases of me actually going for Traore. Hi Dylan, hope you're doing well. Don't you think benching Rafinha would be better? Honestly, you might have a point there because Livramento might get a clean sheet against Leeds and Rafinha might just come on for 1 pointer. So it is something I've considered, something I may change, but I don't want to change too much from what I have now. I had a quite fixed wildcard draft in general and a starting lineup. Because of Son being out potentially, that's why I've changed things up. But other than that, I don't want to overthink it and just chop and change too much. But in terms of the lineup, I think you have a really good point. No Brighton defender. Well, I did have Duffy before, but I just think that with the money from Son, getting rid of him, I could get Trent. So I would rather have him. And also Trent at 7.5, I always said this, I'd rather have him than any midfielder around that price bracket. Townsend to Mbomo. That is something I'm maybe thinking about around game week 10, but because of the next 3 game weeks with Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin still out, I think Townsend can keep up what he's been doing. Maybe not double digits, but he can get maybe a goal or assist over the next 3. Mahrez or Foden? I think for this game week specifically, definitely Mahrez, but longer term, definitely Foden for me. Worth doing Rudiger to Trent for a -4 or just play Livramento? I'd play Livramento personally because, you know, despite me actually getting Trent in, I'm not that confident of a clean sheet in game week 8 necessarily, especially with Alisson and Fabinho out. They're 2 huge components to Liverpool's defence. Thank you, Wanja, for following the stream. Really appreciate it. Any thoughts for Elianusi as a differential? He had 2 goals in international break for Norway. Yeah, but I believe he didn't start the last game for Southampton. Of course, he's someone to consider, and from the Southampton attack, I'd say other than Armstrong, he's probably the one that I consider the most. But yeah, not someone I'm going to be thinking about for my team. There's so many other midfielder options and strikers that I've been looking at, but he is someone to think about. Chilwell instead of Aspie. Look, in terms of explosiveness, Chilwell is definitely going to be more productive than Azpilicueta. The problem is he's going to be sharing those starts with Alonso, so not for me. But of course, if you have really good defensive depth and you don't mind occasional benchings, then yeah, I'd say he's obviously worth considering. Why did you take out Sombro? Apparently he has COVID, same with Brian Hill, so yeah, it's not ideal, to be honest. Let's see, wait, where was I? Yeah, apologies, the kind of chat, I'm trying to get through all the questions that I've missed out. Bear with me for a second. Who's a good replacement for Son? Well, if you have the money, definitely De Bruyne, but kind of looking more realistically at some of the options you can actually go for, I'd say Foden is definitely one to look out. He's someone I have considered going from Son to Foden, but in my case, I did a pretty big downgrade, you know, getting players like Saka in there and then using that money in my defence. But yeah, I think Foden would definitely be kind of my ideal replacement, especially over the next 3 game weeks. But just bear in mind, you know, the rotation's always going to be there. Thank you, the Unknown Brewer. Really appreciate it, mate. I'm only after playing Wildcard last week, but should I do Rudiger to Tierney and Sarr to Foden for a -4? I can see why you'd want to do that. You probably need that money from Rudiger to Tierney in order to get Foden in for a -4. I think it could be worth it, if I'm being honest. But Rudiger could be back around game week 9, and Sarr is still someone, you know, I wouldn't be in a rush to get rid of, despite the really poor fixtures. But I think it could be a worthwhile hit, but at the same time, you don't have to make it. Hi Dylan, I'm here. What made you decide to do a face reveal recently? It's because I got a new laptop and the webcam that comes with it is really good, in my opinion anyway, at least for, you know, a laptop webcam. So that's why, you know, I just thought it was a good opportunity to start doing it. And also, literally just days before I actually got the laptop, people were talking about, you know, when are you doing a face reveal or whatever. So here we are. And also, I don't know, it gives, I'd say, a bit more... gives an extra touch to the videos, I'd say. Of course, you can let me know. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't want to see. Vardy or Lukaku, vice captain in my case. I'd go for Lukaku, but that's only because of the fixture. I've got Trent, Diaz and Cancelo on wildcard. Switch Diaz, Cancelo in for James. Ooh, I would rather have Diaz and Cancelo, but I would suspect Reece James will start in game week 8, especially with all the kind of injuries Chelsea have at the back. So yeah, that's not the worst decision in the world. Benching Rafinha to start Livra is something I'm considering, but at the end I might just go for Rafinha. But yeah, it is a good point there. Jota, Shaw and Sarr to Grealish, Cancelo and Mbomo. Yeah, I can agree with all those transfers, to be honest. Jota, if he does start, that could backfire, but yeah, I think they're all, I'd say, upgrades for the time being. Sanchez will play. You know about Robert Sanchez? Yeah, I believe he will. If not, then correct me there. Hey bro, my team is Sanchez, Trent, Cancelo, Marçal, Livramento, Salah, Captain, Rafinha, Gray, Benrahma, Lukaku, Ronaldo in a 4-4-2. Bench, Dennis, Sissoko, Williams. Any suggestions? Yeah, I like the defense, at least for the time being. And then, around game week 14, you can replace Marçal. The midfield's also looking pretty good. You have Benrahma and you don't have Antonio, so that's fair enough. I think Benrahma, if you don't have Antonio, you can just have him. He's one of the best midfielders still. Maybe this week you might struggle a bit because Rafinha might not play, and that might mean Dennis or Sissoko comes on, for example. But that's still a good team. Going forward, I would definitely be looking to do Ronaldo to Lukaku, to Vardy potentially, or maybe just a cheaper striker in general. Maybe Ivan Toney could come in for Dennis, for example. Obviously, Ronaldo's kind of taking a lot of your budget there. So maybe a downgrade even to Vardy could give you enough money to do Dennis to Toney or Hwang, and then you can kind of upgrade the rest of your team. What do you think about Firmino? Buy him or Jimenez? I wouldn't be buying Firmino because he's also another one who could be sharing minutes with Jota, and also his goal output isn't consistent enough. I'd rather get Jimenez, yeah. Let's see. Apologies for missing all of this. Start Mbomo or Livramento? That's a tough one because before the kind of injuries for Chelsea, I would have definitely said Livramento, but now maybe this is a good time to play Mbomo, but none of them are wrong. It's tough. It's not like I'm too convinced of either of them doing well, but I'd probably still start Livramento, but I'm not too sure, or as sure as I was before. I have 2 free transfers. I'm considering of bringing in Trent in for Rudiger and downgrading Semedo to someone cheap, or Antonio to Armstrong, Tony. Yeah, if you have 2 free transfers, of course, you don't want to kind of burn one if possible. Yeah, I think Trent in for Rudiger makes sense. Yeah, Antonio to Armstrong or Tony. I think the Tony transfer would make sense long term. You're looking at the next 10 or so game weeks. Semedo to someone cheaper, depends who it is. If it's someone like Ben White or Duffy, that's not too bad in my opinion. So yeah, I definitely agree with those transfers. I have Foden already, but I need to replace Son since he's sick. Fair enough, yeah. So if you already have Foden, you could look at Saka. I'd still be looking at other options like Townsend. I know obviously in terms of the price it might put you off. It gives you a lot of money in the bank. But then there's also Grealish, but I wouldn't be going for double City midfield if I'm being honest. And because you already have Foden, I would rather have him over Grealish anyway. So I would probably just be looking at someone completely cheaper. That's the reason why I went for someone in the first place. He's one of the midfielders I trust the most. And I don't trust anyone else around his price. Not even Mahrez, who could do really well this week, and I think he will. But longer term, he's going to be in and out of the team. So I'd probably be looking at someone cheaper. And actually, let me, apologies if I haven't read your comments. I'll try to get to them very soon. I'm going to try just to explain my wildcard selection since I've made a few changes. So Ramsdale and Foster are pretty much the same as before. Nothing's changed there. And I'm still a bit tempted by Raya potentially and then getting Ben White in my defence. But I just think Ramsdale with the save points and the bonus points he can get, because Arsenal are a bit more of a defensive team now under Mikel Arteta. That's why I've gone for Ramsdale. And yeah, if you just look at his scores since he's come into the side, it's really impressive. And I think Arsenal have a better defence than Brentford. But then again, looking at the next 11 or so game weeks, you could arguably say Brentford have better fixtures. They're quite evenly matched though. In terms of the defence, Cancelo's rumoured not to start today according to City Extra and their predicted lineup, but then again, they kind of act like, or they present these kind of lineups as definites, but they're not really. But still, Diaz and Cancelo, I think as a defensive double up is very, very good. And you just look at City and how consistent they've been. Only in the Liverpool game did they really struggle defensively. Trent, maybe not the best option for the next 4 or 5 game weeks, but he's just someone I want long term in my team. And let's say we come into the game week 13 period where Liverpool have good fixtures and I don't have Trent, I'd probably have to be taking 2 transfers, maybe a hit to get Trent back in, which I probably would around that time. And then Azpilicueta's come in for Rudiger because of Rudiger's back problem and he is out for game week 8. And yeah, I just think it's kind of like for like switch. I could go for Chilwell or Alonso, but then again, I'm not completely sure about who's going to start in that game. I think it could be Alonso because of his height, because of what he can do from set pieces, but then again, I'm not entirely sure about that. And then Livramento has stayed in. I could arguably start him over Rafinha this week. The only way that would backfire, in my opinion, is if Rafinha comes off the bench and scores or starts the game, which is very unlikely. He did play 71 minutes for Brazil and scored twice against Uruguay. And then Saka's come in. He's someone that I haven't really been too fond of. You've seen your wildcard videos, your teams, and also just always talking about him in team selections. Just not really too fond of Arsenal assets, especially in attack, but just looking at the next 4 game weeks, he's someone I really like, and I can always downgrade him or Townsend to Mbomo. And the reason why I've actually kept Townsend in is because Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin are out for at least another week, and I think Townsend can kind of be that talismanic figure up front for Everton. Salah captain, I'm not going to overthink it. Of course, if I did have De Bruyne or Mahrez, I would probably be considering them at least. But Salah is a really good option nonetheless. And then Antonio Lukaku up front, and Lukaku's my vice captain. I think now Chelsea versus Brentford could be a bit more of an open game, especially if Chelsea, they don't have a lot of their key defenders. Maybe they're going to be a bit more offensive. That is something to consider. Tony is in there as a long-term option. He's on my bench. And then we have Douglas Luiz, who might miss out, but long-term he's good. I got him in at 4.5 million. He's now 4.6. He did get an assist against Man United from a corner. And yeah, I'd probably go for him. If I needed the extra money, I'd just go for Brownhill. But that's kind of a brief summary of my wildcard. Let me know what you think and what would you change. And of course, everyone's going to have different opinions, and there's no such thing as kind of like an ideal or perfect team. Thoughts on Armstrong? I do like him around that price bracket, but then again, I just prefer Ivan Toney long term. And the fact that Armstrong hasn't really got any bonus points or given a clear indication of him having the potential to get bonus points is a bit concerning. But of course, he's very cheap. And over the next 5 or 6, he can do really well, in my opinion. Did you get Saka before the price rise? Yes, I did. I got him yesterday night. As soon as I saw that Son was out, or could be out due to the rumours, of course we don't know that for sure. I just made that switch and I got Trent at the back and, made changes elsewhere. So yeah, I got him in just before the price rise. Bit lucky there. How about Captain Kane? Yeah, I did mention him in my preview as a top 5 captaincy shout, and he has a really good record at St James's Park and against Newcastle. Yeah, agreed, the Flying Dutchman. Rudiger to Chilwell 1 week punt. If you're wildcarding in the next week or very soon, El Famoso, then yeah, I probably would. But then again, if you're asking me, I think who's going to start, him or Alonso? I'm just leaning towards Alonso a little bit, but I could be wrong about that. So if you think Chilwell will start, then go for it. But yeah, as Ethan says, oh no, he mentions a 1 week punt. I thought he was referring to your comment, but yeah, I think 1 week punts, I kind of stay clear from them, especially in defense. With defenders, I want to I'd say, stick to a defense for a long period of time. So I'd be a bit hesitant about that. That's why I went with Azpilicueta and just kind of removed the doubts that I have there. 1 week punt for Rafinha, budget 7.3 million. I'd say Saka if you don't have him against Crystal Palace. Maybe it's kind of a big U-turn that I've done here, a bit like Boris Johnson. But it is what it is. Will Rafinha play? I think he will be in the squad, but he won't start. That's what I think. I could be wrong though about that. Livramento or Duffy for first bench? Oh, definitely Duffy. He is facing Norwich and he has more attacking potential, at least in terms of goal threat. So I'd go for Duffy. Do you think there's a chance Burnley could score? Thinking of captaining Mahrez or Cancelo? There is a chance, but not a very big one. I think City are the most likely to keep a clean sheet this week, according to the fixture and the odds. And captaining Mahrez or Cancelo, both are really good choices. I probably would go for Mahrez. I think he's just more of a differential and probably more explosive, especially against Burnley. I'm planning to double my Brighton defence for the week. Yeah, I think that's good, but just bear in mind that longer term, if you look at the fixtures coming up like Liverpool, Manchester City, you probably wouldn't want that. And just try and make sure you have enough transfers to get out of that Brighton defence if possible. Son, is he available? Once again, it's not completely confirmed, but it looks like he has COVID. Same with Bryan Gil from Spurs. Nothing's confirmed there yet in terms of the actual players who have it, but yeah, I think he will be out. And just because there's that big doubt surrounding him, that's why I've gone off Son. What are your thoughts on Hwang? Around that price, he's probably the best up until Game Week 14, maybe excluding Ivan Toney, but yeah, I like him over Armstrong potentially. But at the same time, I don't know, I just think he's a bit punty. At least, that's kind of just the way I see it. I need to see a bit more from him. But once again, he's done really well, with the minutes he's actually had. and he is one of the best around his price, no doubt about it. And if you need someone around 6 million or under, I'd probably go for him, and maybe not. You could go for Armstrong. Foden plus Diaz plus Cancelo, or Saka, Cancelo, and Walker. I'd go for Foden, Diaz, and Cancelo for sure. And honestly, if I had enough money, I would probably have gone for Foden over Saka, but unfortunately, I just don't have enough money, to be honest. So yeah, Foden is definitely someone I probably would get in now. Let's see. Antonio Jimenez. Look, Jimenez up until Game Week 14 has better fixtures, but I'd still go for Antonio. That's kind of a personal opinion there. Should I start Hwang against Aston Villa? Depends who you'd start him over, but I don't really see a big problem with starting him. That could be a bit of a tight game, and there might not be many goals in it. Who would you recommend for a 4 million defender? If it's 4 million on the dot, then it's between Manquillo or Williams, and I'm not really too keen on either, but I'd probably go for Manquillo. But at the same time, I'd rather have Livramento at 4.2, Duffy at 4.3, or maybe Ben White at 4.4, but of course, you probably don't have that. You don't like Mount and Foden? I do like Foden, and despite the kind of minutes being an issue, I would get him in my team. As for Mount, he is a good option too. But yeah, either way, just with the team I have, I can't do Saka to Mount. Otherwise, I'd consider it, maybe even Jota. But yeah, I'd rather have Foden over the two. I think he's a bit more explosive, and probably in terms of points per start, he is superior. But Mount is also a good choice, no problem with him. Hey Dylan, how are you? Just joined the stream. Very good, mate. Sudindra, thank you for joining in, mate. You don't trust Wolves' attack, or is it just there's no place for them in your team at the moment? That's a good question. Jimenez is someone I've considered over Antonio, and I do believe he will start, or at least, because he did come late from his international against El Salvador. But yeah, it is a difficult one. I would actually consider him over Antonio, and also Hwang over Tony, especially over the next two. But I would definitely want Tony, even from Game Week 9 onwards against Leicester. I think Tony and Brentford could do pretty well there. So just having that Brentford cover already in Tony, I'd just rather have that. I would rather have him over Hwang, but I have considered both of them. I don't really have a problem with their attack. I think they're decent. They're not reliable. They're a bit like Brighton last season. They underperformed their XG, but they have picked up in recent weeks. Still, I just don't really see a place for them in my team, but of course they are good options. Hey mate, best midfield around 8.5 million. I'd probably say Foden. Over the next three anyway. Longer term, looking at the next 5 or 10, that's a different story. And I'd probably say Rafinha. Obviously, despite Leeds' fixtures turning around Game Week 15. What about Rice James? Is he going to play? I think Reece James will play. Yeah, I'd say it could be. I'm no expert here. I'm just giving my opinion. But Chalobah, Christensen, and Azpilicueta could be the centre backs. Reece James as the right wing back, and then it's Alonso or Chilwell on the left hand side. Sarr or Saka for this game week? Saka. I'd go for Saka because of the fixture, but Sarr could still do well. Son, best replacement, obviously excluding De Bruyne. Assuming you don't have enough money for him, I probably would say Foden. And if I had enough money to get Trent and also get Foden, I would have definitely gone for him. So I'm just giving you my personal opinion there. And I'm assuming you also have Rafinha already. Greenwood to Foden from -4. I think Greenwood could do alright against Leicester, but I've been saying this for the last few game weeks and he hasn't delivered. I think it's worth the hit. I'd probably go for it. Start Mbomo or Hwang? I'd probably go for Hwang, but Mbomo's also good. How much do you have in the bank? That's a good question. I was literally going to say that as well after talking about how much I have. So I have 0.4 million in the bank. So let me know what you think I could do with that extra 0.4 million. And my squad value is 100.9. So yeah, there you go. That's pretty much it. 0.4 million. That's all I have really. To work with. And let's get this up again. Thoughts on Leicester versus Man United? I think that it could be a high scoring game. More high, to be fair, last season wasn't it 2-2 when Bruno scored as well? It could be something similar with both Maguire and Varane out. I think United are even more vulnerable defensively, although they might actually adopt a more defensive approach. Doesn't necessarily mean they're playing Fred and McTominay and they're just gonna play so many defensive-minded players, but it's just the way they play and approach the game. But at the same time, I just think both defenses have been poor this season, and history would tell us that it will be a high-scoring game. But maybe one of the managers or both of them will kind of change their approach. But should be an interesting one. I still back United for the win, and I think Ronaldo's a good captaincy option. Hi Dylan, start 2 out Jota, Sarr, Rafinha, and Livramento. That's a tough one. I'd start probably Jota, although I'm not too confident if he starts, and it's between Rafinha and Livramento, and it depends on what you think is going to happen. I mean, to be fair, Rafinha is probably not going to start, so I probably should bench him. I replaced Son to KDB. Is okay? Definitely. And I was talking about him earlier when people have asked about the best Son replacements, and I did say for me, Kevin De Bruyne is probably the best one. Replacement for Rudiger for 5.9 million. Once again, I think 5.9 million or below, I'd be looking at another Chelsea defender. Maybe you could go for Christensen, or if you really just, you have enough defensive cover and you want someone who's explosive, you could go for Chilwell or Alonso. Take your pick there. Otherwise, I'd just be recommending the cheaper defenders like Duffy, Livramento and Ben White, and then spending the money elsewhere. Is this your wildcard team? Yes, it is. It's my final wildcard team. I might make a change in my lineup and maybe in my overall team and squad by making a transfer, but not too sure. Best replacement for Son, Sancho, not for me. Not right now anyway. I'd probably say De Bruyne, and if you don't have enough money, which you probably don't, then I'd probably say Foden. Best Mbomo, Tony, Livramento, 2 start. That's a tough one. Livramento and then one of Mbomo or Tony. I'd maybe be tempted by Mbomo, but both are fine, I'd say. If money doesn't matter, would you take Cucurella over Duffy? I probably would, yeah. And I think he's just kind of more established longer term in the team. He's more nailed, but both are good options. And Duffy is probably better value for money, but Cucurella's going to get more bonus points. Hey Dylan, you have a strong team and good luck, mate. Thanks for the videos. Thank you, Jose. And yeah, the team's looking all right. Obviously, Saka, once again, I'm not too sure about him, but out of the options around his price and below, I'm just going to go for him over the next 4. And Boma's going to be coming into my team soon. Thank you very much for joining in, Jose. Would Son be a good choice? Yes, he is a good choice. I mean, I did have him in my wildcard team, but he is a doubt this week because apparently he has COVID. So, yeah, I'm not too sure. Just because of that kind of doubt, I've got rid of him. Keep Rafinha in the 11, please suggest. This is the thing, because he's probably going to come off the bench, then maybe, if you have some good defensive cover like Duffy, I'd probably definitely start Duffy over him. When it comes to someone like Livramento or Tony, who you might not have too much confidence in Game Week 8, then you could just start Rafinha, but you would probably require a goal or assist in a limited amount of time. Bench 1, Hwang, Mbomo, Rafinha, Smith Rowe. Also bench order, Livramento, Duffy. Duffy should be first on your bench, Liphook, in my opinion. And as for benching one of your players there, I probably would bench Mbomo, and if not, Rafinha. Best constituents of free hit draft. I actually showed the best free hit team you can make in Game Week 8, so check out my preview video and you'll see my team there. So yeah, literally all of it is there, and you could make a few changes depending on what you believe. Don't you think to get rid of Antonio, bad fixtures coming on? Yeah, the fixtures are really poor, but he's just been so good this season, and looking at the stats, he's far better than anyone around his price. Of course, I've considered Jimenez, like I said before, even Hwang, but at the moment I'm just going for Antonio. I don't want to get rid of him, and I think he can do well against Everton, especially after being fully recharged. Bench Tony, Mbomo or Livramento? Yeah, probably Tony or Mbomo. I'll probably bench Tony, but that's a tough one. I think he could still do alright. Saka for Rafinha for a 1-week punt. If you're wildcarding soon, or you have a way of getting Rafinha back in, then I'd say go for it. Saka's just someone I have for over the next 3 or 4. It's not like I necessarily expect him to do so well in Game Week 8 against Palace. Best captain, Salah for me, and other than that, there's Mahrez, De Bruyne, who probably make up, the rest of the top 3 or top 5. And Son and Kane, assuming Son is actually fit and available, he's a really good choice. Only blanked once against Newcastle, but that's the problem. We just don't know if he's going to start. Do I start Rafinha or Cresswell? That's tough. I'd probably start Cresswell, but not really too confident about that. Rudiger to Aspie for a hit, mate. If you have enough cover on your bench like Duffy or Livramento, I just go for them and avoid the hit. But otherwise, if you need it, then maybe just go for it. Son or Foden? I would normally say Son, but because of the doubt surrounding him, I just go for Foden. Let's see. How about captain and KDB? Really good choice. Obviously, it's between him and Salah, but he is a fantastic choice this week. -4, Dennis De Hwang. What do you say? Yeah, once again, if you don't have cover on your bench to, come in for someone like Rudiger who's injured, then I go for it, and I think Hwang can pay off the hit over the next 5 or 6. Do you think Alonso will start? I'm not completely sure about it, but I think he will. Ramsdale, Cancelo, Chilwell, Aspie, thinking of bringing in Trent, Duffy, Rafinha, Son, Salah, Hwang, Armstrong, Lukaku, Livramento, Mbomo, Brownhill. 2.4 million in the bank with Aspie, 0.9 with Trent. Any suggestions? Yeah, I think Chelsea with Rudiger and other players out, they might be a bit more susceptible defensively. So, you know what? I don't really see a problem with getting rid of one of the Chelsea players. I'd rather get rid of Chilwell, honestly. I'd rather have the nail defender like Azpilicueta, and if he does play right wing back, he can get you attacking returns. But yeah, if you have 0.9 million, you go ahead with that Chelsea transfer, getting rid of Aspi and getting Trent in. Your other transfer, you could just save it for next week. I wouldn't be getting rid of Rafinha despite his kind of concerns surrounding Game Week 8. Yeah, I don't think you need to make a transfer now. What you could do is in a few weeks' time, do Armstrong or Hwang to Tony using that extra 0.9 million. So that's what I would do. Will Rafinha play? I think he might be in the squad, but in terms of starting, because he played 71 minutes, I just don't think so. If there's any risk of injury or Marcelo Bielsa sees any problem, then I think he just won't risk it. 0.5 million in the bank. Who to replace Rudiger with? James or Cancelo? With Cancelo, I'll have no money, and with James, I have 0.7 million. I'd rather have Cancelo over the two, but James is a great option. Just the problem with him is the starts. Doucouré or Townsend? I would rather go for Townsend, but Doucouré is also a good choice. Money not an issue. Which Chelsea fullback would you go for on a wild card? I'd probably go for Reece James on a wild card, but at the same time, I'm just not too sure about any of them. And you just have to stomach the benchings. That's pretty much the key advice I'd give there, but I'd go for Reece James. Which two would you bench? Rafinha, Livramento, Mbomo, and Reece James. I'd probably bench Rafinha and Mbomo potentially, and it's up to you. Start Livramento or Mbomo, and I'd definitely start Reece James. Yo, Dylan, I clicked on the stream and saw Timo Werner in the top left. How are you though, and what's your plans this week? And I think you're the same person who said I sound like Itani as well. So I sound like Itani and I look like Werner. I mean, what a combination. And I'm doing well, thank you very much. Hopefully you are too. And my plans for this week is just playing the wild card and probably just going big at the back because Son is a doubt this week. I might get Livramento in for Rafinha in my starting lineup. Other than that, I think everything else has been covered. No way I'm mod. Yeah, you are, mate. You are mod. Will Cancelo start? I think so, but bear in mind that some predicted lineups don't have him in there. Captain Say Maximan for a big shout out. Wow. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I definitely do a shout out if Captain Say Maximan does really well. I think he could do all right. I don't know about a big haul, but he could maybe get a goal or two or assist. Thank you, Dylan, for your effort. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Welcome, RTG Legend. Diaz or Cancelo? I just think if you want no headaches long term, go for Diaz. I think he's just more nailed. But, that's the reason why I'm saying that is because Zinchenko's now back. So Cancelo could be a bit of a risk. But at the same time, Cancelo tends to start most of the games under Pep Guardiola since Diaz has come into the side. So, yeah, they're both really good options. And if you have enough defensive depth, then just go for Cancelo. Otherwise, and you need that nailed defender, then just go for Diaz. Alonso over Chilwell. I'm not really going to give an answer over who do I prefer out of the two because I honestly just don't know who's going to start which games. But for Game Week 8 specifically, I think Alonso will start. I could be wrong though. And it doesn't necessarily mean he's a better option. They're both quite similar. Why did you take Son out? He is a doubt because of COVID, according to reliable sources and rumours. Of course, it could be wrong, but the two players in question are Bryan Gil and Son, apparently. Should I start Hwang or someone from my bench? Elianusi, White, Livramento. I'd be tempted to start Ben White, but if you already have Ramsdale, then you don't have to, and they're both good options. Jimenez or Hwang? I'd probably go for Jimenez, but Hwang is also a good choice. Nobody's talking about fixture-proof Ronaldo, which can backfire really badly. Yeah, I talked about it in the preview, and even I mentioned it earlier. I think Ronaldo could do really well against Leicester. I just don't know. The reason why I got rid of him and I'm not really thinking about him is because at 12.6 million, you want someone you can captain most weeks, and over the next 5 or 6, you're probably going to be captaining him once against Watford. So I just don't really see the need to have him. Hey Dylan, tuning in a bit late. No problem, Yarang. Thank you very much for tuning in, and obviously, good to see you here again. Are you locked in? I think maybe Rafinha could come out for Livramento, but other than that, I'd say I'm fairly locked in. I put a lot of thought into it yesterday night after the news of Son being out and also Rudiger being injured. And obviously, when I say news of Son being out, it's not officially confirmed, but it's just a heavy rumour, and I've seen some reliable sources talking about it, like Paul O'Keefe. Is Mahrez a good pick? I think for Game Week 8 specifically, definitely, but beyond that, probably not for me. Start Rafinha or Cresswell? Once again, I'd probably go for Cresswell. But not too sure about that. And of course, if I had an inkling of Rafinha starting, he'd definitely be the easy choice. Hwang or Armstrong? Both good choices. I'd probably rather have Hwang, but they're both decent. Son or any City mids? Normally I'd just say Son, but because of the doubt surrounding him, maybe just Foden. Is Chilwell and James with Cancelo, Trent and Livramento an option? Try to play both with a strong bench. Surely one will play and not being much. Yeah, I think that could work, but at the same time, there could be the odd occasion where they're both benched, but as you say, shouldn't be too likely, and you have enough defensive depth to cover. So yeah, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world, to be honest. And you're looking at the other options. I'd only go for someone really cheap, other than Reece James or Chilwell, like let's say Ben White, Livramento, who you already have, and Duffy. So yeah, there's also Cucurella you could consider, but some really tough fixtures coming up as well. Force on getting Werner. I think he's always looks like a decent option, or he could be a decent option. Did well again for Germany. Also did well in Game Week 7. Could have scored more goals if it wasn't for McCarthy pulling off a wonder save. I'd still be kind of hesitant, and I'd wait and see a bit more consistency from him first. Do you think it's a good idea to start Rudiger, hoping he doesn't play, and then wait for the players on the bench to perform? It's pretty much confirmed that Rudiger's out for Game Week 8. That's why he's red flagged. Thomas Tuchel confirmed it himself. So yeah, you might as well just put someone else in. Doesn't really make too much of a difference anyway. So I'm planning on taking a hit to sell Shaw to Diaz and Rafinha to Mbomo Saka, then brings Rafinha next game week for Sarr. Is it a good idea? I think so, to be honest. They all look like great transfers. Shaw to Diaz is a fantastic upgrade. The one concern I'd have is Rafinha, getting rid of him because you'd probably want him back. But once again, you did say you'd get him in next week anyway. Is Cancelo nailed? With Zinchenko out, yes, but because Zinchenko's back, I'd say he's not completely nailed. Diaz would be your kind of nailed City defender, but he is a good choice nonetheless. And wow, it's 10 a.m. We have 52 minutes for the deadline, and I haven't even checked, by the way, the views or anything. I've literally just got the chat in front of me. Let's see. So let me try see what's going on. Damn, over 200 people watching. Really appreciate it. Wow, in the early hours of the morning, obviously I normally stream around 7 p.m. on a Friday, so really appreciate everyone joining in here, maybe in an unorthodox time, and yeah, just really appreciate, of course, very humbled by the support. Is Danny Ings a good option? I think him and Watkins could be decent options, and I'd probably prefer Watkins slightly more, but yeah, Ings is always a good option. The problem with him is, the injury concerns. But at the same time, Calvert-Lewin coming back soon. When he's back, he's fully fit and he's in a bit of form. I'd probably prefer him. There's also Bamford, another one who I'd probably prefer. Antonio, Jimenez. Bamford maybe not so much, but yeah, the other three, I'd probably prefer them. And then not to mention Vardy and Lukaku at a premium price, Ronaldo, and then the cheaper ones like Hwang and Tony. I'd probably prefer all of those players, but Ings is a good option. That's just kind of a personal opinion that I have right now. I could change my mind depending on performances, underlying stats, and other stuff. Start Sarr, Gray, or Gallagher? I would start Gray. I'd start him. Will you play Saka or Rafinha? I'd play Saka because Rafinha is more of a doubt to start the game. Who can you bring in? Either Ronaldo, Maximan, or Antonio? Oh, to replace. Okay. Yeah, to replace Ronaldo, definitely Lukaku. If not, Jamie Vardy. To replace, say, Maximan, I would be looking at either Tony or Hwang. And to replace Antonio, definitely Jimenez for me. Keep Mahrez for how many weeks? That's the problem with him. He's someone who's really good for a free hit and he starts, but having him longer term, you just don't know when to get rid of him. So it's a really tough question. I'd probably say have him for the next 3 game weeks and then get rid of him. But he could only just start one of them. And, he'd just be very disappointing. He's a really tough player sometimes. Will Rafinha start? Well, in terms of if there's any updates, I'd appreciate if anyone, puts in the chat because, yeah, I have no chance to really check Twitter at the moment. There might be some news, but I don't think he will start. Of course, if Bielsa is confident that, everything's safe and he can play him, then he will start. He's very important to Leeds, but I don't know, it's very risky to do that. Start Rafinha or White? I'd probably go for White because of the, Brazil game recently. Rafinha or Benrahma? I'm on a wild card. I'd still go for Rafinha. Maybe not necessarily for this game week, but just looking further ahead. Hi Dylan, I've still got my wild card, but I have Alonso and Rafinha, but only one bench replacement. Would you take a -4 hit for Trent and Cancelo, as I only have Shaw and Bissouma on the bench? Thanks. it's not the worst thing in the world to have Shaw come on, but at the same time, of course, United are really poor defensively. They've got a lot of injuries. But yeah, I think Trent or Cancelo, you could always get them in next week. I can see why you'd want to take a hit. But yeah, it could easily backfire if you take the hit, and you need them to keep a clean sheet or get an attack in return to, for it to pay off. I'd probably just have Shaw come on and then get one of those players in next week. And then potentially, if Rudiger's still out, you can also get rid of Shaw as well. So you have Trent and Cancelo coming in for Shaw and Rudiger if you can afford it. Thoughts on Captain Grealish? Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Obviously, he's a good player and he could do really well. If City win by 5, of course, he has a good chance of getting involved in the goals. But I would rather captain Foden or Mahrez or Kevin De Bruyne, if I'm being honest. I just don't see Grealish at the moment anyway being that explosive. Who do I play, Rafinha or Sarr? That's tough. I mean, I'd probably still go for Rafinha, but then again, Sarr's going to start with Rafinha. We just don't know. And yeah, I mean, Sarr can still do well. Aspi, Laporte, Cancelo, Livramento, Manquillo, Saka, Salah. Sorry, yeah. Son, Rafinha, Luis, Jimenez, Lukaku, Tony. Thinking of switching Manquillo to Duffy and Luis to Brownhill. Any replacements or any Son replacements? Yeah, I'd probably say Foden, to be honest. Obviously, it's risky, and it's up to you if you want to go for that. But you do have enough depth, I think, to cover. I'd probably go for Foden. I expect he will start this week. I believe Son has tested positive for COVID. Yeah, exactly. That's why, just because of the rumours, it could be true. That's why I've just kind of stayed clear from the risk and, gone for something safer. Can Foden and Mahrez start? Of course. I think Foden could start on the left and Mahrez on the right. Maybe Grealish will be in midfield. Foden could even play as a false 9, although maybe a bit less likely with De Bruyne back in the team, but I think it is possible. Bench boost this week, I'd probably save it for a double game week, to be honest, but, if you have a really good bench for a week and you back it, then, it's not the worst idea in the world. Sarr or Rafinha this week, once again, I'd probably go for Rafinha, but if you don't think Rafinha is going to start and you're not sure if he can do well from the bench, then just go for Sarr. But yeah, it's not an easy question, to be honest. Do you think KDB starts? I think he does. What do you think about Ronaldo? I think if you have him and he's not really, you've got other issues to sort with, just keep him. I think he can do well against Leicester. But if you don't have Lukaku heading into that Norwich fixture, I'd definitely try to find a way to get him in. Dylan, Antonio has bad fixtures. I'm getting rid of him next week. Do you still trust him? I trust him. I don't like the fixtures, but I do trust him and West Ham. But of course, the fixtures have, crossed my mind. He's someone I might get rid of anyway in a week or two's time, but I want to still give him a chance. He's done really well for me so far, and I want to see how he does. Foden or Grealish? I'd go for Foden, but Grealish is a bit more nailed, I'd say. He's played every single game so far this season, or at least started. Benrahma or Rafinha? Rafinha long-term for me. Foden or Mahrez? Mahrez for Game Week 8. Beyond that, I'd rather have Foden. Grealish or Mahrez or Foden for Game Week 8 only. I'd be tempted to say Mahrez then for that. Azpilicueta or Cancelo? I'd rather have Cancelo, but if Zinchenko starts stealing minutes from him, then I'd probably say Azpilicueta. So at the moment, Cancelo, but that could easily change. Start Marçal or Livramento? That's a tough one. I'd probably start Livramento actually, but I'm not too sure about that. Kane or Ronaldo for this game week only? Oof, that's a tough one. I mean, there's no indication of Kane really showing any sort of form, but I'd probably go for him. Traore and Jota both not in the starting 11. I think both of them could start, but at the same time, both of them could be out. So bear that in mind. The reason why I think Firmino will come in is because he's been fully, charged. He hasn't been travelling with Brazil for the qualifiers, and Jota has only just come back, and he was nursing a problem. Of course, he's intensified the training. He should be, fully fit for Game Week 8, but maybe they'll just go for Firmino and then bring Jota on for half an hour, 40 minutes. Do you think Marcos Alonso will start? I think he will, but I'm not completely sure about that. And thank you very much to everyone who has joined in. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. Really appreciate all the support. Over 200 people watching. And yes, early hours of the morning. So obviously, like I said, I really appreciate it. And Twitter and Instagram, those are my handles. Dylan_RCM. It's the same as my YouTube. And we haven't finished yet. Don't worry. I'm still going to be going through your questions. So really appreciate it. And let me actually just charge this in. Yeah. Just in case. There we go. All right, all right. Yeah, the laptop's charged. No way of the stream dying suddenly. So don't worry, we're back here. Here's my team, and once again, maybe starting Rafinha, not the best idea in the world, considering the kind of, I'd say, doubts of him starting. I mean, it's very unlikely that he will. Let's see. So will Foden and Mahrez start? I believe both of them will start, but once again, with Pep, you never know. Will Walker start? I think he will. Yeah, I think Walker will start. Christensen, Chilwell, Chalobah, who is likely to start? I think Christensen and Chalobah will start with Azpilicueta as the centre-backs, Reece James right wing-back, and Alonso left wing-back, but it could be Chilwell as well. So I think Christensen and Chalobah are the two most likely to start, with Christensen being the most nailed of the three in Game Week 8. Alonso or Rudiger out for Trent, thank you. I'd probably say Rudiger, although longer term I'd rather have Rudiger over Alonso, but if you're looking for Game Week 8 specifically, then I just get rid of Rudiger because Alonso could start still. Hi mate, hope you're well. Not like me, whose head is banging with wildcard options. A few questions that I'd appreciate an opinion on. Would you have Jimenez or Hwang in isolation? Jimenez, but I do like Hwang too. And yeah, my head was banging yesterday, but for different reasons, not for wildcard. Never captain early kickoff, mate. Yeah, but it's Salah, and he actually has a really good record in early kickoffs. Great record against Watford, and it's Salah. He's got 21 more points, I believe, more than any other player. With Salah, you have to make an exception. And to be honest, I look at the other choices I have in my team. Lukaku could be alright against Brentford, even Antonio against Everton, but there's no one else. Maybe Cancelo. But the rest, I'm not that confident in terms of captaining. But of course, you raise a good point. The kickoff curse is real, and I might actually be tweeting about it later. Once again, talking about the captaincy curse, or just the curse in general. You think Chalobah will play? Yes, I think he will, Ashraf. Seeing Alonso for Cancelo this week. Oh, selling. I mean, I would probably just keep Alonso for this week, at least. Then further forward, yeah, you can get Cancelo in. Is a 12-point hit too much to take? I think it is, to be honest. It could pay off long term, but it's just not something you want to be doing. A -4 hit here and there is fine. Maybe a -8 if needed, but a -12 I think is a bit excessive. Would you have Laporte or Alonso, since both have starting doubts? For this game week specifically, I'd rather have Alonso because of the attacking potential, but yeah, maybe I just go for Laporte longer term. No Brighton defence. I mean, I was thinking of Duffy. I had him in my team, but because of Son being out, it's given me enough money to do Duffy to Trent, which I think is a worthwhile upgrade. But of course, Cucurella and Duffy are the two main defenders I'm looking at. There's also Veltman. But yeah, Brighton, of course, I could still get them back in at some point. And I could maybe, instead of Livramento, go for Duffy. But at the same time, over the next 4, I'd probably prefer Livramento. Force on KDB, if I had him, I'd be tempted to captain him. I think he's a great option. But when I'm looking further ahead, I'm just not too sure about KDB because we have Son when he's fit, and we have Vardy, we have Ronaldo, Lukaku, Salah. It's very difficult to find a place for him, and City can score from so many different avenues, and Kevin De Bruyne hasn't been that consistent of an FPL asset in recent years. So yeah, just kind of reconsider. Whom to captain, Salah or KDB? I'd captain Salah, but KDB would tempt me. Mahrez plus James or Aspi plus Foden? I'd probably go for Aspi and Foden, but I do like Mahrez and James for Game Week 8 a lot. Hello Dylan, my chat is ignored. No, don't worry mate, it isn't. Apologies. Please run my squad. Ramsdale, Aspi, Cancelo, Rafinha, Laporte, Gray, Salah, Saka, Foden, Maupay, Antonio, Lukaku. Foden captain. I would captain Salah, but Foden is a good choice. Yeah, I think that's a good team, to be honest. Not really any kind of big doubts I would have, really. Maupay's really good for this week. Then further ahead, you can get Tony in next week for Maupay. So that's what I'd be looking at with your team. Smith Rowe or Townsend? I'd rather have Townsend, especially with Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison still out. For some bench boost this week, I'd save it for the double game weeks, to be honest. Ferran Torres injured. Yeah, he's out for 6 weeks. It looks like with a bone fissure. I mean, it's very unfortunate for the owners. And after the start he had, you would have thought he would have kept on, starting most games, and it just hasn't really happened. Captain and vice, and why? Salah captain, and obviously it depends who you have, but I'd say Lukaku as a vice. If you have Son or Kane, you could vice captain them. Also, any City players like Foden or De Bruyne or Mahrez especially. Liverpool will lose. Wow. I mean, it's not out of the realms of possibility. And I'm not too confident in Trent this week, if I'm being honest. Greenwood for Son this week. I probably would just avoid just too many kind of injury concerns or the COVID concerns surrounding Son, and Greenwood is not someone I'd want to have, looking further ahead. Any updates on Son? Nothing that I know of yet. Obviously, I haven't been able to check Twitter. I'd have to check it now. But of course, if anyone sees any news, whether it's about Son or any other kind of players, let me know. I haven't had a chance to check Twitter or anything, really. Alonso, Chua or James? I'd probably go for James, but they're all good options, especially, when you know who's going to start. That's the problem with them. But I'd say James. He's got less competition and he's very explosive as well. Start Mbomo or Rafinha? Rafinha is probably not going to start anyway, so maybe I just go for Mbomo. Werner, good luck for the season. Thoughts on having no premium forward? Because I'm thinking Tony for Ronaldo next week. Already have Hwang and Jimenez. Yeah, I can see what you mean there, but I would want to have Lukaku. I would want to have one premium forward and Lukaku for the next 4 or 5, I think. It's not a must, but I would want to have that. Jota, Rafinha, and Mbomo or Smith Rowe? Mbomo, and I'd go for Rafinha. This is looking further ahead, though, not necessarily for this game week, because for game week 8, I'd rather have Jota and Smith Rowe. Start Semedo over Rafinha. Is it a good idea? I think so, because Rafinha could come on for a one-pointer. Over 200 watching, only 79 likes. Come on, people, hit the like button. Thank you very much, Arang. Really appreciate it. Rudiger out for Alonso. Alonso's very risky. He might not even start this week, but if he does, he could do really well. Sarr or Livramento? I'd start Livramento. Reece James to start? Yes, I think so. Rudiger to Aspie for Aspie or Trent for a -8. Yeah, just go for Rudiger to Aspie. Bring Cancelo in for Reguilon? I probably would. Just bear in mind that Zinchenko is back now. Foden or Townsend? Maybe I'd go for Foden, but Townsend is a good choice too. Do you think going with KDB over Lukaku on a wildcard could pay off? It could, especially over the next 3. But Lukaku also has really good fixtures. It could pay off, no doubt about it. And I think in game week 8, if De Bruyne starts, which he should, I think you outscore Lukaku. Tomiyasu or Ben White? I'd go for Ben White, but Tomiyasu's a good option. Does he have COVID? It's not confirmed, but it looks like he does. Gray or Townsend? I prefer Townsend, but Gray's also a good choice. Aspie Mount or James and Foden? Really good question. I'd probably go for James and Foden, actually. Is Kovacic a good differential? Around this price in midfield, he is one of the best, but at the same time with Kovacic, I don't expect him to sustain that level of performance. I'd rather have Curtis Jones around 5 million. Heard Man City fans saying Cancelo will be rested, so Walker and Diaz are better pair than Cancelo and Diaz. I still would rather have Cancelo over Walker, but yeah, some City fans believe Cancelo will be benched and Zinchenko comes in, and it is, a possibility. It's something I have to stomach if it does happen, and I can see it happening already, but longer term, I'd rather have Cancelo. If Zinchenko's taking too many minutes and starts from Cancelo, that's when I'd be concerned. Meant to say Rudiger to Trent or Aspie for a -8. Yeah. Any of them is a -8. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I'd probably say Aspie of, up until game week 14. Trent is the kind of season keeper. Veltman or Hwang? I'd start Veltman. Yep, Walker and Diaz, bro. Start Townsend or Gray? I'd start Townsend, but Gray's also a good choice. Salah will blank, I hope not. Rudiger out for Alonso? I'd say so, yeah, maybe, but I'd rather have Azpilicueta, maybe Reece James as well. Need help. James or Chilwell for Rudiger? I'd go for James, Glenn. I'd go for James. Is Son officially out? He's not officially out. I have to make that very clear. He's not officially out, but there are rumours surrounding him having COVID, same with Brian Keele. So that's why I'm not risking it. Tomiyasu or Ben White or Duffy? Probably Ben White or Duffy. If you already have Ramsdale, go for Duffy. Otherwise, you could just go for Ben White. Sarr to Mbomo or save the transfer. Save the transfer and then get Mbomo next week, potentially. And, especially if you have 2 free transfers, it gives you more flexibility going forwards. Diaz or Aspie? Already have Cancelo. Ooh, that's a tough one. If you already have Chelsea cover, which I'm not sure you do, then just go for Diaz. But otherwise, just go for Azpilicueta. Is Jimenez worth to have? I think so. He definitely is. Just bear in mind, he might not be fully fit, or should I say, fully recharged, because he did just have a game, literally, less than 2 days ago against El Salvador, where he scored a 93rd minute penalty. Can Smith Rowe... Well, I was trying to make sense of that, but I'm guessing match Saka. I think he can match him, and Smith Rowe is a good option too. I have both Cancelo and Laporte will both play. I'm not sure about both of them playing, to be honest. There are rumours that Zinchenko could come in for Cancelo, And for Laporte, it could be Stones, just like it happened against Southampton, I believe. But one of them should start, and if both of them don't be surprised. Hello from Malaysia. Foden or Townsend to bring in? Thank you very much, Aaron. And I would say Foden, but I like Townsend too. Can have someone less nailed but with money in the bank and a differential, or a nailed 90 minutes on pens but more template player with money in the bank, with no money in the bank, but not too much of an issue, to be honest. Hwang versus Jimenez. Yeah, I get what you mean, to be honest. I would just rather have Jimenez, but I do like Hwang too. Can Smith Rowe play Saka? Oh, yeah, yeah, I think he can, but I would rather have Saka if I had to pick one. Will Alonso start? I think he will, but don't hold me to that. It's just my opinion. Sato and Boma or save the transfer? Save the transfer. Cancelo or Diaz? Before Zinchenko coming back, I would have said Cancelo. Now I would probably say Diaz because he's a bit more nailed. Well, he is more nailed. Is Kyle Walker an option? He is, but I just rather would have Cancelo despite the rotation risk. Thoughts on starting Livramento? Not the worst idea in the world. I might do that myself, to be honest. Azpilicueta, Diaz in defence, or save some dollars or money. Get a cheaper option like Duffy, White, and be able to afford Antonio Jimenez. It depends on the cheaper option. If it's someone like Tony, then I don't mind too much, or Hwang. But I would rather have, assuming you already have, let's say, you have a Trent, you have a Cancelo, you have a Rudiger, then I just go for the cheaper defenders. But otherwise, it's fine. You could go big at the back like I have and get Azpilicueta or Diaz. Shaw, Jota, Sarr, Cancelo, Foden and Boma for a -4. I would, if you could, I'd try to avoid the hit. Maybe don't do Sato and Bomo and then do that next week if you can. Why has Mount played so few minutes? He's been injured, but he should play more. And either way, he's not completely nailed under Tuchel. Under Lampard, he played pretty much 90 minutes every single time, but not under Tuchel. But he does start the majority of the games. Diaz or Aspi? Already have Cancelo. Once again, I probably would just go for Aspi if you already just have Cancelo. Going for a Foden captaincy punt. That's interesting. I mean, good luck to you on that. I wish I could have him. If I had enough money, I'd go for him over Saka. Had planned on going for Son on a wild card, but now that he has COVID, I don't know what to do. Thinking of doing Son and Antonio to Saka and Vardy. Honestly, not sure. Yeah, I can understand what you mean there. That's why it's good to have backup plans and, have a good idea of what you would want. I had a clear idea of what I would do with the Son money because I was already playing with the idea of getting rid of Son before the COVID concerns. I would, obviously I'm a bit biased. I'd go for something similar to what I have on screen, or you could just go for Vardy maybe instead of Antonio and then downgrade like Trent, for example, to a Duffy. I think you could get away with that, to be honest. Jimenez to Armstrong or Hwang? I'll just keep Jimenez, to be honest. I'd probably just keep him for now, but yeah, going from Jimenez to Hwang doesn't make too much sense in my opinion, but if you need to do it because you want to facilitate another transfer, then I just go for Hwang, but I do like Armstrong too. Antonio and Hwang or Jimenez and Armstrong? I'd go for Antonio and Hwang for sure. Laporte or James? Tough questions coming in. I'd say James, but I do like Laporte too. Foden or Grealish? Foden. Which two Man City defenders will you recommend for this game week? Diaz and probably Walker for this game week, just because Cancelo might not start. Mount versus Foden for Son, I'd go for Foden. Thanks, bro. Going for James now. Obviously, look, hopefully it goes well for you. I don't want to take credit if it goes well for you, and I also don't want to take the blame if it doesn't. That's my kind of 2 cents on the matter. Hopefully it turns out right. He should start this game week. We'll see. Azpilicueta, Diaz in defense. Yeah, once again, I'd probably just go for the defenders. But yeah, there's no problem with either of them. Hwang or Rafinha? I'd just start Hwang this week. Alonso start. I think he'll start in game week 8. Vardy and Werner or Lukaku and Iheanacho for wildcard. Very interesting picks. I'd probably go for Lukaku and Iheanacho. But Vardy Werner is very interesting. Should I start Sanchez in goal? I think he can keep a clean sheet. He's one of the most likely to keep one this week. Captain Cancelo or Mahrez? I'd go for Mahrez just because Zinchenko's back. Maybe Cancelo won't start. Is Son out? Not completely confirmed, but just because there's big rumours surrounding it and he has COVID, that's why I've just not taken the risk. Wilson, I probably just won't go for him. Of course, he can do well. Newcastle can pick up. The atmosphere will be much better now, but I probably will be avoiding for now. I'd keep an eye on him. Maybe when Newcastle have a really good set of fixtures and Wilson shows some form, but not for now. Play Mboma or transfer him for Townsend? I just play Mboma because if you transfer him out for Townsend, it could pay off for the next 3 game weeks, but you'd want Mboma back in game week 10. Was keen on Foden a week ago, but with Gundogan back, that's true. Yeah, and Foden having never played the game after an international break, it's a bit worrying that he isn't just for 1 week, but still. That's a really good point you make about him never playing after an international break, and also Gundogan coming back. Some really good points there, Marco. Thank you very much to Domba. Really, wow. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And you've done it before as well, so really humbled, mate. People in the chat, hit the like button and support this guy. He has great FPL content. Thank you for the shout out, mate, and the donation. You didn't have to. Thank you, mate. And good luck with Game Week 8. Good luck with the rest of the season. And of course, stay blessed. Thank you very much, mate. You didn't have to, but really appreciate it. Sarr or Rafinha? Rafinha long term. For Game Week 8 specifically, maybe Sarr, but I don't know. It's just based on the assumption that Rafinha doesn't start. Obviously, Rafinha can still do well with 20 or 30 minutes, but doesn't even get that. That's the problem. Should I take a -4 hit to get Trent in? Was just going to bench Rudiger, but doubting myself now. If you have enough cover on the bench, don't take the hit. Otherwise, then yeah, maybe just take the hit and, you have someone for the long term in Trent. Rudiger sell or keep? Jota sell or keep? Jota to Foden? If you have enough defensive cover, keep Rudiger for sure. Otherwise, if you have to sell him, then you have to. Jota sell or keep? I'd keep him for this week. But Foden is always a good option. Obviously, bear in mind what Marco said. Gundogan is back, and also Foden has apparently never started a game after the international break. Who should I get for Rudiger? I already have Cancelo and Alonso. Good question. I'd maybe be tempted by Reece James or Diaz. I think if you have enough money, go for Diaz. Is Son 100% out? He isn't 100% out, mate. He isn't 100% out. But the rumours are strong. There's some reliable sources saying that he's not going to play. Sell Rafinha to Mbomo or Saka this week and long term. Yeah, once again, Sudindra, I answered this already. I probably wouldn't, sell Rafinha. Obviously, Mbomo's a good option in the long term. Saka is for the next 4, but you'd want Mbomo for around Game Week 10. So yeah, I wouldn't sell him, to be honest. Need help. I've got Rudiger, Greenwood, and Jota. What could I do? Greenwood could still start. Jota as well, although I'm not too sure about that. Rudiger's definitely out. I'd maybe be tempted to get rid of Greenwood or Jota, maybe to a Foden. Of course, if he doesn't start, that will also be a bit distressing. You could get Townsend or Gray or also Mbomo, just kind of ready for Game Weeks 10 onwards, and also Saka. So any of those players for one of the midfielders, I'd say. Hwang or Tony? I'd rather have Tony in the long term, but for the next 2, definitely Hwang. Rafinha or Tony? Or probably Tony. Actually, I don't even know. I mean, I've got Rafinha starting, to be honest, and I don't know. The reason why I've actually got him starting, let me explain this just to make it clear, is because I think if he comes off the bench, he could do really well. But at the same time, I just don't know. I don't see him starting, but it's kind of, I'd say, a fear of missing out, maybe, starting him. But honestly, I might just switch him for Livramento. Let me know what you guys think. Would you start Rafinha over Livramento and Tony? But in terms of the long term, in regards to your question, I'd rather have Tony over the next 10. But up until Game Week 15, I'd say Rafinha's the better pick. For people who keep asking, Son is rumoured to have tested positive for COVID, but as I say, just rumours. Exactly, Harry, exactly. I went from Son to Foden, so I don't know what to spend it on. Diaz to James, then Antonio to Vardy. Yeah, I really like Diaz, though. I'd try to have him into your team. Antonio to Vardy is also very interesting, but at the same time, you don't have to do that, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I'd either get Vardy in or get an extra premium defender. So, for example, keep Diaz and get Reece James alongside him and Trent on whoever else you have. I went from Son to Foden, so I don't know what to spend it on. Oh yeah, I just read that. My bad. Foden, a rogue captaincy choice. I'd say so. I probably wouldn't go there. If I had Mahrez or De Bruyne, though, I probably would be tempted. Who should I get for Rudiger? I just lost the comment already. I already have Cancelo and Alonso. Yeah, I would go for Diaz if you can. Should I play Smith Rowe or Christensen? I would play Christensen, but Smith Rowe is a good choice. Thank you very much to Hassa for the super chat. Really appreciate it. I'd appreciate if you can help me with my wildcard team. Ramsdale, Foster, Diaz, Cancelo, Trent, Duffy, Livramento, Salah, Foden, Mount, Mbomo, Brownhill, Lukaku, Armstrong, Antonio. Also, thoughts on Iheanacho? He's someone I haven't discussed too much, Iheanacho. He's a good choice. The reason why I just haven't gone for him is because he's kind of in and out of the team. After his goal against Crystal Palace, you'd suspect he'll start. And he also helps Jamie Vardy, and he gets the best out of the Leicester attack. So Iheanacho is someone to consider. I'm not sure if I'd go for him. Looking at your attack specifically, I like Lukaku and Antonio. and Armstrong is good for the next few weeks, then I'd consider getting Tony in around game week 10. Looking at your midfield, really good. I like it a lot. Foden and Mount, I haven't seen any drafts really with both of them in at the same time. Salah, really good. I like Mbomo in the long term. Brownhill's a good kind of cheap bench fodder option. And then your goalkeepers, I have the same. I like it. Your defence, Diaz, Cancelo, Trent, Duffy, Livramento. That's a really solid defence. Honestly, I'd say it's a really strong draft. I rather would have Hwang or Tony over Armstrong. But over the next two, it's feasible of, Armstrong actually outperforming him. So really good wildcard draft. Tony in for Armstrong will be my only change, and you don't have to do it right now, to be honest. And then as for, Mount, you could maybe get Saka or Townsend or Gray, but at the same time, Mount could be a really good choice and a good differential. Gray or Martial? Gray for sure. At least, yeah, you probably have Martial on your team who to start, but I'd go for Gray. Start Anderson as a cheeky differential. Oof. I probably wouldn't, but, if you have a feeling, go for it. That's what I would say. Great to have FPL back. Good luck to all, and especially to those on the wildcard. Thank you very much, Dylan. Good to see you here again. Captain Lukaku or Salah? Salah for me, despite the early kickoff. And he actually has a really good record in early kickoffs as well. Do I start Gray or Benrahma? That's a tough one. That's a really, really tough one. That's literally the most 50-50 call I've seen this week, in my opinion. Oh, Jesus. I don't know with that one. I'd probably say Gray, but Benrahma could do well. Just to confirm, will Chalobah start? I think he will, but once again, it's based on my assumptions, looking at the injury news, and yeah, that's just kind of my opinion on the matter. I could be wrong, but I think he will. Is it worth Sarr to Townsend for a -4? I probably wouldn't, and if anything, just make that transfer next week. And you also have another week to kind of assess Townsend and whether he's worth it. Aubameyang for a differential. He was actually my best free hit team for game week 9. I think he's a really good choice for this week, but he's not someone I'd want to have for a long period of time. Maybe for the next 3 or 4 he's good, but not at the expense of Lukaku. I'd rather have Lukaku over him. Is it good to play triple captain Salah game week 8? It's not the worst idea in the world, but I probably won't be going there because he is away from home, and I'd rather captain him when he's at home or has a double game week. But it's not the worst idea. Foden Champions League. Yeah, I'll be making UCL fantasy videos soon, and maybe I will actually do something similar. Wow, it's 10:38. We've still got 22 minutes left for the deadline. I have Sanchez, Trent, Cody, Livramento, Salah, Rafinha, Jota, Sarr, Benrahma, Ronaldo, Antonio, Tony, Rudiger, Williams. What to do? In terms of improving this team, I'd say Williams up to a Duffy, for example, or Ben White. I'd go for that. You already have Sanchez, so I would do Williams to Ben White. And then, yeah, I like your attack a lot. I would do Ronaldo to Lukaku, though. And looking at your midfield, Sarr to Saka, potentially. Jota to Mbomo. And also Townsend or Gray, they could come in for Benrahma. But honestly, your midfield is good. You don't have to change much. And Sarr could do really well over the next few weeks. But those are just kind of some suggestions to replace them. And then I'd get a City or Chelsea defender in for sure for Cody. And, by downgrading your midfielders to those kind of options I suggested, and also Ronaldo to Lukaku, you have plenty of money to upgrade Cody to a Reece James, to a Cancelo, a Diaz. So you've got plenty of options there. Is Reece James fit to start, Dylan? He is. It's a bit surprising and strange that Thomas Tuchel didn't really kind of mention him in his press conference. Same with Kante, but he has been pictured back in training, so I think he will start. I'm the Foden guy. I already have Trent and Cancelo, then Duffy and Livramento. So do I need Diaz? Also, I know Antonio is good. I just don't know who to buy. Thanks, man. Love the content. Thank you very much, Nico. I probably would still get Diaz if possible, but you don't have to have him. And yeah, I can see what you mean with Antonio. I have concerns about him as well because of the fixtures, but he's just been so good. But yeah, I probably would still recommend Diaz, even if you already have Cancelo. Sarr for Gallagher. I probably would just keep things as they are. I think both could blank this week, but at the same time, wouldn't be I'd say the most surprising thing in the world if they both scored against their respective opponents. Who do you think is the best 5.5 to 6 million midfielder to rotate with Mbomo? I'd say either Gray or Townsend, to be honest. I think he could be really good. Mbomo or Saka? Over the next 4, Saka. Looking up until game week 19, I'd rather have Mbomo. Mane? I already have Salah, and with all the other premium options, I won't be going there. But Mane has been picking up a bit of form, but not enough to kind of justify his price tag. Despite not starting in the next game week for a long run, why no one is considering Jesus? He is nearly nailed with very good form. Yeah, he's someone that could be really good, especially in certain weeks where it's kind of low scoring and he's one of those differentials who come through. But yeah, once again, there's so many striker options like Jimenez, Antonio, Ronaldo, Vardy, Lukaku, and then not to mention Tony and Hwang. So that's why he's not really been considered. He's a bit of an awkward price, around 8.6. Hwang or Jimenez? I'd rather have Jimenez, but I like Hwang a lot. And to be honest, because of his price, I'd probably say Hwang is more likely to be in my team than Jimenez. Trossard as a 1 week punt and then get Rafinha. Yeah, I think so. Especially if you're on a wild card, you can afford to do that. Obviously, I don't like booking transfers in too much, but it's still good. Ramsdale, Trent, Cancelo, Chilwell, Salah, Saka, Foden, Rafinha, Lukaku, Antonio Armstrong, Foster, Duffy, and Bomo, Livramento. Thoughts? Have 0.1 million in the bank, so can't afford Aspie. What would you change? Yeah, fair enough. I like the team a lot. Obviously, Chilwell is going to be in another team. You have to be prepared for that. Saka, Foden, Rafinha is a really good midfield. And Bomo's there as well. Duffy. Yeah, once again, it's very similar to another team I read out. I don't really see much wrong with it, to be honest. Yeah, it's a really strong team. I'd rather have Tony over Armstrong. But for the time being, you can just get away with Armstrong. He's got better fixtures than Tony for the next two. I have Mendy goalkeeper and Diaz in defence. Should I go for a City double or Chelsea double? I'd go for a City double up, honestly, especially with all the injuries Chelsea have. Jimenez on a 4.5 million mid or Hwang and Saka? It depends. If this is to start, then I'd say Hwang and Saka. I don't want to have a 4.5 million midfielder starting for me. But if you already have enough players, then just go for Jimenez. Jimenez or Hwang? Once again, I'd go for Jimenez, but I like Hwang too. Any news on Jota? Or are there rumours that he doesn't start? There's not rumours that he doesn't start. But because Firmino has been in Liverpool for the last few weeks and he hasn't gone to Brazil for qualifiers, Jota's just been nursing an injury problem, I think Firmino will start. But it could literally be a case of Jota starting and maybe getting 60 minutes, then coming off of Firmino. You never know, to be honest. Play 2 this game week here. Livramento, Sarr, Rafinha, Douglas Luiz. Yeah, Livramento and either Sarr or Rafinha. I wouldn't be starting Douglas Luiz. I'm on a wild card. Should I do Sanchez to Ramsdale? Will cost me 0.1. I'd rather have Ramsdale because of the save points and the bonus points, and also Brighton have some really tough fixtures coming up. But you can always cover Brighton with Duffy as your kind of 5th choice defender. Thanks, Dylan, for your help. Really appreciate it, and good luck for Game Week 8. Thank you, Sidindra. Good luck to you as well. Thank you very much for joining in. Hi, Dylan. What to do with Rafinha? Bench or start? I'm facing the same dilemma. I'm not sure if I'm going to start him, to be honest. I just think that if he does actually start, I think he could still do really well despite the fatigue. What do you think of my transfers? Christensen to Aspie and Wood to Hwang -4. Yeah, I mean, I don't really see a big need to have moved Christensen to Aspie. But Wood to Hwang is a good transfer. I like that a lot. I'm not sure about Christensen to Aspie. Obviously, Aspie's the better player long term. He's going to be nailed, so that hit will pay off. But I think Christensen will start this week. Laporte or Kyle Walker? Maybe Kyle Walker, but Laporte is also good, to be honest. Son's situation, is it confirmed 100%? No, it's not. But it is confirmed that there are 2 players in Spurs with COVID. The names haven't been disclosed, but it's very, very likely that the names are Bryan Gil and Heung-min Son. Rudiger for Chilwell or Azpilicueta? I'd rather go for Azpilicueta. In the last 11 games, Anthony Taylor's officiated Chelsea games. 2 red cards and 5 penalties have been awarded against them. They have only won 2 out of the 11 in the last time. I actually didn't know that he was the referee, so I definitely wouldn't be going for double Chelsea defence in this fixture. But I still like Azpilicueta as a long-term pick, and really good stat there, Dylan. Really appreciate it. That's one for the little machine there. Sarr for Gallagher. Yeah, once again, I don't see a need to make that transfer this week, but I'd say up until Game Week 14, 15, Palace have better fixtures. Ronaldo or Alba? Already have Lukaku. That's a tough one. I probably would still prefer Ronaldo, but Alba is maybe an interesting option over the next 4 or 5. Sarr or Damari Gray? I'd go for Gray, but I like Sarr a lot. I think, excluding fixtures, I prefer him over Gray, but because the fixtures are that bad for Watford, I probably would just go for Damari Gray. I have Sanchez, Duffy, Diaz, Salah, Gray, Mbomo, Sarr, Antonio, Lukaku, Ronaldo. Next game, we're planning to sell Sarr and bring Rafinha back. Yeah, that's fair enough. That's a good team, and I probably would just do the same thing, yeah. And as discussed before. Is it a good choice to put Smith Rowe on the bench in case of Rafinha? Yeah, I think so. Obviously, the only way that backfires is if Rafinha comes on for a 1-pointer. Ronaldo to Lukaku on a free, I would go for it, to be honest, Kumar. Thoughts on going no Chelsea defender? I don't really see that as a big problem, to be honest. I think going for no Chelsea defender isn't the worst idea in the world. They have so many injuries. And also, their defence, at least in terms of the underlying numbers, haven't been too impressive. So, yeah, I think it's not really a problem with that. I'd still go for one, but you don't have to be honest. Rudiger for Chilwell or Aspie? Once again, I go for Aspie. Brought in Cancelo just before the start of the live stream. Yeah. Well, to be honest, nothing's clear cut. He could start, but because Zinchenko's back, it is a bit more of a concern now. Jimenez or Hwang for the long term? I think for the long term, I'd still say Jimenez, but Hwang just gives you that extra 2 million that you could do so much with. And with Jimenez, it might be a case of him or Antonio, and that's where it gets a bit more tricky. But both good options, to be honest. Jota news: he's back, he's fit. He obviously had an injury recently. He came back to Liverpool pretty much early last week, and he's been training ever since. He's been intensifying the level of training. He could start, but because Firmino's been fully, charged over the last 2 weeks, hasn't travelled with Brazil, I think he will start, maybe in place of Jota. But what could happen is Jota actually starts as left wing, and Mane saved for the Champions League game against Atletico Madrid, a really big game there midweek. So Jota could still start on the left wing. Son has COVID. Apparently so, but once again, not officially confirmed. I just want to make that very clear for everyone. Son isn't officially out, but it's very likely that him and Bryan Gil have COVID. So, it's up to you what you think. Take the information as you will. I don't have any inside information, and I've just made a decision based on risk. I don't want to risk it. Townsend or Benrahma? I'd go for Townsend, but Benrahma's still a good option. Would you rather have Saka and Jimenez or Foden and Toney? Oh, that's a great question. I'd say Foden and Toney long term, but the other duo is really good too. I like Saka and Jimenez a lot as well. Start two from Rafinha, Jota, and Traore. I'm guessing that says. I'd start Rafinha and Jota potentially. I mean, you could just start Traore over Rafinha, but yeah, I'd definitely start Jota. Do you think Bernardo Silva will start? I think he will, but as an FPL asset, he's not someone I'm really thinking about, to be honest. Hwang, Hee-chan or Jimenez? Yeah, once again, I'd go for Jimenez if you have enough money, but if you need the money, just go for Hwang. You reckon Jota starts? It's a possibility, but I think if Mane is starting, I would expect Firmino to start up front over Jota. Hwang or Armstrong? I'd go for Hwang, but I like Armstrong too. Should I keep Diaz or go for Aspie? I'd go for Diaz. There's no reason to sell Diaz, to be honest. Yeah, Ashraf, I already answered your question. Jota, I think, won't start. Do you think Mount is a valid option if Tuchel returns to his 3-4-2-1 formation? Definitely, but that's a good point you raised. Chelsea have been playing a 3-5-2 recently, and Werner is in really good form, so maybe it's going to be that again, and that reduces Mount's appeal. Good chances Diaz may get rested. I don't know, maybe Cancelo, especially with the Champions League coming up midweek. Is Rafinha going to start? Once again, no one knows this for sure, but I don't think he will. Raul Jimenez, Hwang Hee-chan, this duo's on another level. Yeah, I mean, it is a good duo. I'd have to see more, or we have to see more, before we can say it's on another level. But yeah, I think one of them is definitely, a good option for your team. Chilwell for Aspie and Armstrong to Hwang. Only way to get Aspie unless you think Chilwell or James is going to start. I think Alonso will start over Chilwell, but I could be wrong. That's a decision I'm not sure about. I think James will start. So you could just get James instead of Chilwell. That's what I would say, to be honest. Yeah, Townsend or Benrahma. Once again, I'd say Townsend. Sorry, Dylan was looking for a guy who did a thread on Man City mids and said Foden hadn't started after international break. Of course, the info doesn't guarantee anything, but sure, I saw it somewhere. No link, sorry. It's all right, mate. Don't worry. And either way, looking at the previous few kind of international breaks, I believe he didn't start anyway. Is Son not playing? Once again, not officially confirmed. If he doesn't have COVID, he will start. But if he does, and they can't disclose this information, then he's not going to start pretty much. Is Jota benched? I think he will be, but there is still a chance of him starting over Mane, despite Firmino, in my opinion, starting. Cancelo, could be Zinchenko coming in for him, but once again, anything can happen there with Pep Guardiola. Son sure out this game week. Once again, I have to make this very clear. Son is not officially confirmed out this week, but it looks like he has COVID. Same with Bryan Gil, but once again, nothing's confirmed. That's pretty much it. Odds on Christensen starting, I think 80% chance. I think he's going to start. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. It's my opinion. Saka or Mount, and would you start Aspi or Rafinha? I would rather have Saka, but Mount is a good choice also. And would you start Aspi? Yeah, Aspi over Rafinha. Come on, guys, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Dylan's a great FPL content creator. Thank you, Sudindra. Really appreciate the shout out. I haven't even checked the actual likes actually, or the viewers, but let's see. Really appreciate it. We had over 200 people at some point, so really appreciate it. Sar, Tony, first bench. Yeah, I would probably go for Tony, but Sar's also a good choice, to be honest. Thinking about it, maybe. That's a tough one. Okay, I'd say Sar over him, but the reason why I said Tony initially is because of all the injuries Chelsea have at the back. But, you know, Liverpool don't have Alisson or Fabinho, so that's another thing. Is having Townsend over Mboma for 2-3 weeks overthinking? I know you have also Tony in place, and I would not favour that. So I just start with Mboma, bench for 2 game weeks and save free transfer. Yeah, you could just do that. I don't like booking in transfers either. But also it gives me an opportunity to, you know, evaluate Mboma, see how he does, and I also think Saka and Townsend will do well over the next few weeks. Any info for how long Rudiger's out? No info, but he should be back by game week 9. But, you know, if it is more serious than initially thought of, then yeah, it could be a bit of an issue longer term. Hey Dylan, hope you're good. Ramsdale and Mboma or Townsend and Sanchez? Longer term, I'd go for Ramsdale and Mboma, but Townsend's a really good choice for the next few. Any good 7.7 million midfielders? I still think Jota's a good choice. I still think he is. Then other than that, you know, I'm looking mainly, you know, kind of cheaper. Rafinha, Saka, Smith Rowe, Townsend, Gray, Benrahma's still a really good choice. Sarr, despite the fixtures, but I'd probably kind of have him lower down the pecking order at the moment. They're all good choices, to be honest. Rudiger to Cancelo or Azpilicueta? I'd go for Azpilicueta probably, especially if you already have Diaz. Diaz or Cancelo? I'd go for Diaz now. I would have said Cancelo had Zinchenko not been back, but he is back now. Force on this wild card. Let me try to get the message up. I don't know why. Okay, I don't know what happened there. Force on this wild card. Sanchez, Trent, Walker, Cancelo, Chalobah, Mane, Salah, Greenwood, Smith Rowe, Jimenez, Antonio. Okay, so it's a good wild card team, but I prefer a few keepers over Sanchez. That's not to say it's a wrong choice. I'd rather have Ramsdale or Raya, but he's still good. Trent is good. Walker and Cancelo's fine. Chalobah, I think, is a bit too much of a one-week punt because when Rudiger comes back, I don't expect Chalobah to start. So I'd rather go for someone else. Of course, it could do really well for you this week. Mane and Salah's a really nice differential, but I'd rather have Lukaku up front or even De Bruyne in midfield. And as for Greenwood, even Mount, I prefer him. And then looking at the other options like Benrahma, Rafinha. Yeah, obviously Rafinha probably won't start this week, but I'd rather have him. And also just the cheaper options like Saka, but you do have Smith Rowe to be fair, Townsend, Gray. So those are the changes I'd make. I like your attack a lot, but I'd probably take out Mane, get Lukaku up front, and I'd get rid of Chalobah because he's just too much of a one-week punt. Sanchez is fine. I just offered my kind of alternatives there. Force on John Stones starting, I think it's a possibility, to be honest, and it could be Laporte starting in midweek because he is now the first choice centre-back, or well, behind Diaz obviously. Cancelo and James or Aspi and Walker? Oof, that's a tough one. I think Aspi and Walker is just more nailed. Cancelo and James is kind of the more risky yet more rewarding or more explosive duo. I'd rather have a combination of both, so Aspi and Cancelo or James and Walker, but if I had to pick from those two, I'd probably go for Aspi and Walker. Is there any chance Klopp will play all 4? Yeah, there is a chance, to be fair. That is a good point. They have done it before. It could be Firmino as the attacking midfielder, Jota up front, and Salah and Mane on the wings. That's a good point. Things may go wrong with out-of-form players with injuries, so maybe going Townsend may lock me out of Mboma for his good run. Maybe a little risky of too many risks. Yeah, fair enough, but I'm just going to go for Townsend. I think with Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin out, I think he could still do well. Force on Vardy, really good option, but at an awkward price. I just can't get him into my team, and I'm really happy with what I have so far, and I've spread the Son money around pretty well. I've got 0.4 million in the bank, so I'm just going with this, I think. Can't see Chelsea keeping a clean sheet against Brentford. I don't, blame you there, to be honest. I think Tony and Mboma could actually do really well. Yeah, I think Brentford, this is a really good opportunity for them to get some points off Chelsea. If my rank is 2 million, Captain Ronaldo or Salah, I still go for Salah, but Ronaldo, don't rule him out. I think he could still do well. Also, Mount, Townsend or Decore, I'd go for Townsend personally, but they're all good options. Tony or Armstrong, over the next two Armstrong, but I'd rather have Tony. Ronaldo, Lukaku this week, Lukaku, and also just for the next 4 or 5. Start Douglas Luiz over Sarr. I'd start Sarr, to be honest. Douglas Luiz might not even start, to be honest. He's going to be in the squad, as confirmed by Dean Smith. But I'd just start Sarr. Greenwood to Foden or Ronaldo to Lukaku? Good question. Probably Greenwood to Foden and then get Lukaku in next week. That's what I would do. My last conundrum is basically Townsend versus Mbomo and Jimenez versus Hwang. I think I may go Jimenez and Mbomo. I like the Watford fixture for Townsend quite a bit, but I may not be able to get Mbomo. Yeah, fair enough. It's up to you what you go for. I think that duo you selected is fine and better long term. But Townsend actually, after the kind of tough fixtures for Everton, they've got some fantastic fixtures for a long period of time too. So I think both of them are good. Will Rafinha play? I think he'll be in the squad potentially, but I'm not sure about starting. Rafinha, Laporte, Alonso, are they starting? Rafinha, I don't think so. I think he'll be on the bench potentially. Laporte, I'm not too sure. It could be Stones coming in. Alonso, I think he will start over Chilwell, but once again, you never know with Chelsea. Kane for a 1 week punt. Lukaku in next week. Yeah, fair enough. If you have enough transfers, you know, to facilitate that, and you're not going to take hits to, you know, make these transfers, I'd go for it. Will Rafinha play? I don't think so, but I could be wrong. Foden or Mahrez? I think Foden long term. Mahrez for this week specifically. Start Livramento or Hwang? I'd start Hwang. Alonso or Laporte? Yeah, I would rather have probably Laporte. He's going to play the majority of games for City, but Alonso's more explosive, and I think he will start in game week 8. Is it worth getting Diaz instead of Trent to get KDB instead of Son? I think it might be, yeah, to be honest. And Trent isn't someone you have to have. Game week 13 onwards, that's when you probably want to have him, but I think Liverpool might struggle over the next few weeks, even in game week 8. Gallagher or Sarr? I'd say because of the fixtures, I go for Gallagher, but some set pieces have been taken away from him since Milivojevic has come back into the team, so bear that in mind. Hwang, Mbomo, Rafinha, Townsend, start 3. I'd start Hwang, I'd start Townsend, and then I'd start either Mbomo or Rafinha. It's up to you who you start there. Werner to Jesus next week, fair enough, they're around a similar price. But I wouldn't be going for either of them, to be honest. Triple captain Salah. I'd say that for a double game week or a home fixture for Salah, to be honest. Yeah, Hani, I answered that question already about the captain, and I said Salah, but it's up to you. Obviously, you go for Reece James or Laporte. I think I'd rather have Reece James, but his minutes are just really a concern, and his 1 point is off the bench. Bro, Chua or James, Foden or Mahrez? I'd go for James, and I'd go for Foden, but in game week 8 specifically, I like Mahrez a lot. Vardy captain, United, so vulnerable. I wouldn't captain him, but I wouldn't be too off-put by Vardy's fixture against United, as you clearly say. I understand your situation as you have Tony, but I don't really want him right now, to be honest. Yeah, fair enough, Marco. Like I said, it's up to you. And I already talked about this. You know, I think it's a good choice. Longer term, Jimenez and Mbomo is probably the best picks you can go for. I got Rudiger, Sarr, King, and Rafinha. Who do I get rid of? Rudiger's someone you'd probably want long term. So if he's not out for a long time, you can just keep him. Sarr, King, and Rafinha. I want to get rid of King, to be honest, and you've already got double Watford attack. Yeah, I'd definitely be getting rid of one of them for sure, and I'd rather get rid of King, maybe get Hwang instead, or Tony. Start Hwang, Mbomo, or Livramento? I'd start Hwang, to be honest. Let's see. Yeah, well, 1 minute left for the deadline. What are you guys doing with Rafinha? If I do make a change, it will be a last-minute one. Yeah, I mean, what do we do? What do we do? I mean, this is my final wildcard team pretty much. Hopefully it turns out all right, but at the same time, you know, you never know this sort of thing. So I'm trying to check Twitter, see if there's any kind of news, but I haven't seen anything. It's already 11, by the way, so I think it's too late for any kind of last changes. Yeah, I think this is pretty much what I'm going to be going for, to be honest. Rafinha is a kind of a big concern about him starting, but I think this is what I'm going to go for. If there is any kind of news, then let me know. But I think the deadline has actually passed. Rafinha benched. Well, obviously that wouldn't surprise me, but I'm not sure if we have. I'd say, what's it called? Official confirmation of that happening now. Let me try to read out any chats that I've missed out. So that's my final wildcard team. I got Saka in despite my reservations about him. Let's see, what have I missed? Good luck, Dylan, mate, and everyone in the chat. Thank you, Kirby. Good luck to you as well. Dylan says Liverpool have registered 46 shots on target this season. They have scored a goal in the last 17 games. That's the longest streak in the Prem history. Wow, I did not know that. That's a really good stat as well. Last 17 games. Yeah, I've never actually seen that kind of promoted by Sky or any of these other outlets, so that's interesting. I have a strong feeling Ronaldo's going to score a hat-trick today. I don't know about a hat-trick, but I think he can score a brace or maybe a goal, but you never know with Ronaldo. Smith Rowe or Saka? I'd rather have Saka, but I like Smith Rowe too. Smith Rowe and Tony or Saka and Hwang? I'd go for Saka and Hwang, but the other duo is good too. Consider Christensen. I have considered him, to be honest, but yeah, I've just gone for this instead. And yeah, going big at the back. Going big at the back. Really big. Smith. Oh yeah, I answered that. Start Livramento, Rafinha or Sarr. I would have started probably Rafinha. I mean, I went with Rafinha myself. But Livramento and Sarr, not bad either. Christensen to start. I think he will start. Yeah, I think he will start in Game Week 8. Tony, a must-have. Not a must-have. I think Hwang is also another good choice. And Armstrong. Yeah, 2 minutes to the deadline. Now it's gone. 2 minutes past the deadline. Obviously, I'm reading the chat late. Oh, Sugar. I bought in Chilwell for fucks. I mean, I only just gave my opinion, you know. He might start over Alonso. But, you know, it's very difficult to predict who's going to start. It also depends on Tuchel's plans for the Champions League. Is he going to play a strong team in that game as well? Damn, this chat is really behind for him. Oh, thank you very much. Rafinha or Sarr? I'd go for... Yeah, Rafinha. Why is Chilwell not starting? I don't say he won't start. It's just, in my opinion, it will be... Yeah, Alonso instead. Rafinha or Hwang? I'd rather go for Hwang starting today, but long-term, Rafinha is a better option. Start Rafinha and Mboma or Livramento. I would have started Rafinha probably, but they're all good options. Rafinha, obviously, he might not even start. Play 2 of Livramento and Mboma, Gallagher. Livramento and probably Gallagher, but Mboma's not bad this week. Good luck this week, everyone. Thank you, Ninja. Thank you, Adil. Yeah, the deadline has passed. Bench Rafinha to Mboma to avoid 1 point. Yeah, you could do that, to be honest. And Mboma can do well against Chelsea. Well, to be fair, if you haven't done it, you can't do it now. Obviously, the deadline has gone. Why is Rafinha starting? Just because I think he can do well even off the bench, to be honest. I went for Foden last minute. There's nothing wrong with that, to be honest. I think Foden is still a good choice. Just bear in mind he's going to be benched from time to time. Locked in. Good luck, everybody. Thank you, John. Rafinha won't start. Yeah, I don't think he will either, to be honest, but I just got him in just in case. I'm not that confident in Livramento or Tony, but they can do well as well. Will there be a stream for UCL Fantasy? Yes, the plan is to do a stream as well on the Tuesday, and also some videos in the meantime. Hwang, Lukaku, Vardy in attack. That's a very solid attack, to be honest. Very, very bigger there. Thank you, Dylan. Great stream as always. Thank you, Mickey. Really appreciate it. Good luck, everyone. Thank you, Meta. Thank you. We don't know if Rafinha will start or not. There is no news yet. Exactly. We don't know that for sure. But, you know, just looking at all the factors, him playing 71 minutes for Brazil, I'm just not too sure if he does. I ended up keeping Josh King and Sarr, got rid of Rudiger for Cancelo and didn't want to take a hit. Thoughts? It might backfire because Zinchenko's back. He could be the left back here for City. But not a bad transfer. I think Cancelo's still a good choice. Change captain from Cancelo to Salah. Hopefully it pays off. Yeah, I think it makes sense because of the doubts surrounding Cancelo starting. Hopefully the early kickoff doesn't, you know, bite us again. Good luck all. I much appreciate Dylan. Great advice to all. Start Rafinha over Livramento as well, although Rafinha may not start. The way I see it, that Livramento's ceiling isn't that high, and so punishment isn't that bad. Yeah, Livramento might get an assist or might get a clean sheet, but really you're just looking at a difference of 3 to 5 points potentially. But we never know. Rafinha could still do well off the bench if he is benched. Good luck, Dylan and everyone. Thank you, Sidindra. Grealish, says Gideon. Yeah, Grealish is still a good choice, to be honest. It's just, I would rather have Foden, but then again. Good luck all, says Harry. Thank you very much, Harry. Really appreciate it. Why did you go Lukaku over KDB? Because I would rather captain Lukaku over the next 4, and also he's more nailed for Chelsea than KDB is for City. The reason why I say that is because KDB could be rested for another game as well. Thanks, mate, says Manda. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Mahrez starts. Wow, is this already confirmed? I mean, either way, I wouldn't be surprised because Jesus is out, potentially, because of the international break. He played with Brazil. Good luck, everyone. Good to have the footy back. It is. I mean, we did have it. It's just you might not be too interested in the qualifiers. I wouldn't be too in the Euro qualifiers, to be honest, but I do like the South American qualifiers a lot. I do follow that. And that's pretty competitive, but yeah, I can see why some people don't like the European qualifiers. I'm trying to see if anything has been confirmed yet. Yeah, I don't see any kind of confirmation of anyone starting yet, but let me know if there is anything. Thank you very much to everyone who has actually joined in Still over 100 people here, so really appreciate it, of course. And that is my final wildcard team, of course. Hopefully it's a success. Mboma is probably going to be coming in soon in the midfield. Jimenez could maybe come in, but probably not. Now was the time to get him. I went with Antonio instead. I am considering other options as well. Calvert-Lewin maybe, when he's back fully fit. And in the defence, I would like to keep that for a long period of time. Hopefully Cancelo can start the majority of the games, even with Zinchenko coming back. And yeah, really the main kind of difference I'd want to make is Mboma coming in for Townsend or Saka. The rest I should be pretty happy with for the time being. Thank you very much to everyone who's joined in. Like I said, once again, if you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. Really appreciate all the support. And yeah, I mean, so many people watching today. This was the first stream with a webcam as well on the channel, and also with this new laptop. So hopefully it went well. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you got something out of it and you got all your questions answered. Apologies if I couldn't get through everything and if I was a bit slow. I was trying to get through as many questions as possible. And yeah, I'll try to be quicker as well next time. But, didn't do too bad, I'd say. But obviously feel free to let me know what you think. Let's get my team back on screen if you want, not the end of the world. And let's get the chat back up and see if there's any last questions or comments before I wrap up. We've been streaming since 9:30 a.m. and yeah, it's been an hour and a half. And my voice was gone yesterday actually, but we are decent now. Let's see. Bench Sar, started Rafinha. Good decision. I don't think that's a bad decision, to be honest, especially if Rafinha, starts the game. Force on Mount, good option. I'm just a bit concerned about Chelsea playing 3-5-2 with Werner up front. South American qualifiers are at a weird time, so I don't watch. They are, but, I do have a personal connection to the team, so I do watch the games. But, yeah, otherwise I probably wouldn't stay up. Nothing confirmed, says Laser. Fair enough. Khan says, can't wait for UCL. I'm doing much better than FPL. I'm top 10,000 in the world there. Yeah, after match day 1, I was around 300,000 in the world. And then match day 2 was so good, I went up to 3,000. And now UCL Fantasy is going much better than FPL. But both are going pretty well, I'd say, so far this season. On reflection, I may have gone too template or maybe wasn't different enough. But I guess players are highly earned for a reason. Hope all goes well. And Arsenal too. Will be tough on Monday versus Vieira. Yeah, Arsenal actually haven't won any of the last 3 games against Crystal Palace, so that's something else to consider. And another reason why I wasn't too sure about Saka in the first place. But yeah, I mean, going to template, you still probably have a different combination of players compared to other people, so it's not the end of the world. And, going template, it's not the worst thing, in my opinion. It's still good to have pretty much tried and tested players rather than just going for too many punts who might just backfire immediately. Cheers, Dylan. Genuinely appreciate it a lot. Thank you very much, Marco. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, Ninja, as well. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Laser. Kobe. Cheers, Dylan. Great stream as always. Thank you, Kobe. Always here as well. Adil says, good luck. Felt like the chat was behind and the chat was being missed, but always great stream. All right. Thank you very much, Adil. Is it the stream on screen or is it the way I'm reading them out? Let me know. Have a great weekend, Dylan. Thank you, Cyril. Really appreciate it. Start Armstrong for Tony. Yeah, I would start Armstrong over Tony this week. I put Rafinha first on bench and Livramento second with Mboma third. That's not really a bad shout, to be honest. Why no Son? He is rumoured to have COVID, so I didn't want to risk it. And in the end, I've actually just not gone for him. Yeah, exactly, Yogesh. Exactly. Apparently, obviously, we don't know yet, but the rumours or the people talking about them, given the information, they're quite reliable, apparently. Was Manquillo and Cancelo in for Rudiger and Tanganga for a -4 good now? Oh, good move. I like Cancelo, but he might not start because of Zinchenko coming back, and Manquillo for a hit. I know you're getting rid of Tanganga, but I'm not too sure about that. I'd rather have, obviously, Duffy, Ben White and Livramento, but it's not the worst, hit in the world. And just in general, I don't like hits for defenders, if I'm being completely honest. If I transfer Rudiger out to Laporte for a hit, I could have simply played Kilman and benched Rudiger. Yeah, potentially, and just bear in mind Laporte might not start. It could be Stones, actually, so let's wait and see what happens there, to be honest. New here from Singapore. Thank you very much, VA. Really appreciate it. Played Jimenez for Antonio. Yeah, wait, did you bench Antonio or did you get Jimenez in? I wouldn't be benching Antonio, to be honest. Not on screen, but you're reading chats. Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I was trying to read all the comments from before, so apologies for that. I'll try to work on that. I'm not using Wildcard, but Son just got COVID. Do I replace him with Rafinha or Mboma? Well, the deadline has passed, so if you're looking ahead to game week 9, he could be missing that as well if he is out with COVID. Yeah, I think Rafinha coming in is a really good choice. If you don't have him already, get Rafinha in. Is Salah benched? I don't think so. I think Salah should be fine. Dylan, Stones rumours. I think he will start over Laporte potentially, and Stones, or should I say Laporte, will play in the Champions League midweek. Is the team on screen your final team? Yes, it is. I haven't made any final changes or anything. This is the team. I haven't made any changes really. And this is live. This is my live screen. So yeah, this is my final team. Nothing has changed really from the beginning of the stream. A few things have changed since yesterday, though. That is for sure. Let's get the chat back up. Dylan, with your good voice, I think you could be a good commentator and host for events. Good day and good luck. Wow, thank you very much, mate. Don't know about good voice, but yeah, I really appreciate it. And yeah, good to see you on here again. Well, I can't even speak now. Thank you, Heng. Thank you very much. Is the next deadline Friday, right? I think so. Let me double check that for you. I don't want to give you false information. I think it actually is on Friday because I was planning ahead for next week. Yes, it's on a Friday. Arsenal against Villa on the Friday, and Arsenal do play on the Monday, by the way. But yeah, early kickoff is late kickoff on the Friday. The early kickoff on Saturday is Chelsea against Norwich. So is Lukaku captain against Norwich? Is that going to be a captaincy jinx as well? Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I mean, I'm literally just going to be captaining all the kind of early kickoff players in the last few weeks. But yeah, early kickoff next week. Well, he isn't a robot, is he? Says Adil. Oh, okay, laser. No, but I do try my best. But the reason why I probably am a bit slow is because I try to answer every single question and try to give detailed answers. But obviously, I try to get through some of them, I'd say, a bit quicker. Selling Ronaldo for Trent and Bruno for next week. Opinion? Yeah, I probably would do something similar. Ronaldo, selling him for Trent. I'm guessing it's to get enough money. But yeah, I mean, Bruno is just someone I'd probably get rid of. But then again, if he is still on penalties, which he could be, then he's still a really good option like he was last year. And he is, regardless, it is Bruno Fernandes we're talking about. Ronaldo to Lukaku and White to James for a -4. Top 250 by the... Wow, that's a really good rank. Yeah, I would definitely do Ronaldo to Lukaku next week. And White to James, I wouldn't take a hit for that, to be honest. I think White could still keep a clean sheet against Villa, although it's not likely. And you could just get James in after. But of course, that Norwich fixture, you probably want to target it. So it is a worthwhile hit if you're asking about that. Transferred Antonio out on a wildcard for Jimenez. Great stream with the webcam. Thank you very much, mate. Wow, yeah, transferred out Antonio, but you are on a wild card. That makes complete sense. Yeah, that's completely fair enough, and I have considered it myself. I just really like Antonio and his underlying stats. Vardy or Jimenez? That's a tough one. I mean, if you have enough money, then Vardy, but I just think Jimenez offers better value, and you can do so much with that extra 2 or 3 million. So maybe Jimenez, but who would I rather have in terms of excluding money? Definitely Vardy. Thank you, Adil. Yeah, obviously, I appreciate the feedback as well. And I think another viewer did mention it as well. Ronaldo to Lukaku and White to James for a -4. Yeah, once again, it's a worthwhile hit. I'd go for it, but you could always just, save the defender transfer and save the hit. Hoping Foden and Armstrong do well. That's my sorts of differentials and James. Yeah, differentials can be so big, especially when the template is so strong. So I completely understand that. Yeah, don't worry, Laser Nadil. It's all good. Obviously, I appreciate the feedback as well. And of course, there are ways I can improve as well. So obviously, thank you very much to everyone who has joined in. We're 15 minutes past or 40 minutes past the deadline, and once again, really appreciate all the support. Still over 100 people watching. I mean, that's crazy, to be honest. And no news since the deadline has passed, to be honest. Let's wait and see what happens. But I'll leave it there. And once again, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you want. I'm active on those platforms. And of course, I'll be posting my final teams for UCL Fantasy and FPL as well. So yeah, that's also the next thing. UCL Fantasy, I'll be posting videos and hoping to do a live stream, aiming to do one on Tuesday, an hour or so before the deadline. I've gone brave with subbing Rafinha for Elyounoussi. Fair enough. I just think that Rafinha, if he does start or come off the bench, he could do really well. So that's why I've just gone for him. Yeah. That's, to be honest, Elyounoussi is not the worst pick in the world. Do you have Twitter? Yes, I do. It's Dylan_RCM, and same with Instagram, and I'm very active on that platform too. Have a good weekend and everyone, and good luck. Thank you, Adil. Thanks for the mod, by the way. No problem, mate. Thank you, Laser. If Ronaldo scores big this week, will you want to hold or sell? I'd still want to sell for Lukaku if you don't have him already, but Ronaldo is not someone you have to get rid of. It's just around that price. Will you be captaining him most weeks? Probably not. Only Watford around game week 12 or 13. So, you don't have to have Ronaldo. But of course, if he does score big, everyone's going to be talking about him again. And people might be taking hits and making a lot of transfers to get him back in. Predictions for Spurs versus Newcastle, really good question. I think if Son starts, Spurs definitely win the game. And I think they'll win 2-1 or something like that. But if Son doesn't start, I think this is how important he is for Spurs. I think Newcastle might just edge it. So it's a tough one. I think it's hugely dependent on Son. So 2-1 either way, depending on if Son starts or not. Good luck, everyone, says Stephen Moore. Thank you very much for joining in. Good luck to you as well, mate. And obviously, really appreciate everyone who's joined in. Do you think Jota will start? I think it will be Firmino and Salah. I'm not sure about Mane or Jota. That's where Jota could come in. But I think Firmino starts over Jota if that's the kind of conundrum happening there. The reason why Mane would be benched potentially is if he's safe for the Champions League midweek. Is Son out for this week for COVID? Not completely confirmed, but it's looking likely that he is out with COVID and he could miss out game week 9 as well. Good luck. Thank you, Arda. Really appreciate it. Son and Brian Keele have COVID. They ain't starting. According to Paul O'Keefe and other sources, I think that is the case. Once again, I don't want to say it as a certainty because it's not officially confirmed, but I am inclined to believe that Son is out. Thanks, Dylan. I'll be back in your next stream. By the way, which team do you support? Thank you, Eternal. And I do support Arsenal as my English club. Obviously make of that what you will. I'm not that confident in Arsenal. I don't really tend to go for Arsenal players. This is the first time I actually have any sorts of Arsenal players really other than Ben White. Having Ramsdale and Saka, I rarely double up on Arsenal. Hopefully it doesn't go too badly, but I'm not that confident in this season, to be honest. Thank you very much to everyone for joining in. Arsenal are crap, mate. Yeah, obviously, thank you. But we did beat you 3-1 though. But yeah, I know we're crap, don't worry. Is Laporte a good option for a double up? Already have Cancelo. He is a good option. Just bear in mind that with Stones, he's going to take some games and some minutes away from him. And Diaz is more likely to get bonus points. And he's just so nailed. So I'd rather have Diaz over Laporte. But if you need the extra money, then go for Laporte. And there's also Reece James for Chelsea. So he is a good option, to be honest. Arsenal... okay. All right, Jacko. Thank you very much. Yeah, whenever I talk about supporting Arsenal, I tend to get these kind of comments, but it is what it is. Wouldn't have happened 16 years ago. Then again, I probably wouldn't have been streaming 16 years ago, but that's a different story in itself. Thank you very much to everyone who's joined in. Like I said, really appreciate it. Those are my socials on screen. Dylan_RCM. Thank you everyone who joined in today. Really appreciate it, and good luck with game week 8. Good luck with the rest of the season. That is my final wildcard team.